Handle Your High with Tadayoshi.
All right, welcome back to Handle Your High with me, Tadayoshi, and I have my good friend Shawn Ray. How you doing, bud?
I'm good, man. I got my daughter's headphones on. It eliminates some of the echo because I got tile floor down here and it's a vaulted ceiling. So
we haven't gotten a chance to catch up for a while since I lived in California. Really, I mean, except for at shows and stuff.
It's been a minute, man. As a matter of fact, I've been in South Orange County now. That way, I don't give it all away. For about 2 years, I relocated. You know, I'd actually lived in the Inland Empire where my dad got sick, and you were out not too far from me at that time. And he passed away all the way in 2010, dude. It's been 9 years, and I hung in there as long as I could because the market crashed after he passed. Well, right before he passed. And finally, I just lit the fuse and burned that house and came back to Orange County. I'm about to grow my Michael Jackson fro soon. It's gonna come.
Is that right?
I found my mojo. I love it in South Orange County, so I'm a happy camper, man.
Well, we were just commenting before we started this. That office seems a lot more brighter. Like it's a lot more. Is the whole house like that? Because the other house you had was like it was like an Italian style.
And it was a little
darker inside. Yeah, it was nice. It was really beautiful.
Yeah, this was all bright colors and stuff. I'm closer to the beach, so it went a little bit brighter. And I think Palumbo said, "What are you in your basement?" And we don't have basements in California.
He's probably looking at that sink and stuff. You have a little mini bar or whatever.
We're right in the garage. Yeah, it's cool because I got a little sink, I got a little refrigerator, so it's kind of like this is my lounge area. But I'm in Orange County.
Before you had that your mini man cave with the cool projection system, theater room. Do you have that kind of stuff?
No, it's a different type of a layout here. This is an area that wants to get you outdoors. Where I was at, I built that man cave because I never wanted to leave the house. The traffic was too bad. But where I'm at now, it forces you to get out because I'm only 15 minutes from the ocean.
So I checked out of California, and I'm going to tell you, lived in Pittsburgh for 4 years, as you know, and then I moved here to Chicago. I'm in the North Shore area, so it's not in the city or anything, but it's sort of a suburbanite-ish, wealthier area. Really nice, but I'm looking out my window here. I'm looking at you as you panned around your office floor. When it's fucking snowing.
When I hang up with you, I'm headed down to the beach for lunch. So that's the beauty of being in California.
I am telling you, I am so missing California, man. And
let me tell you what you're going to miss this weekend. We got the LA Fit Expo, and you know, it kicks off the year. I mean, everything starts from this weekend and steamrolls forward.
So what are you doing there? You got a couple of new things now. I wanted to ask you about that. You have a new endeavor. You're doing your own Shawn Ray TV stuff, and I was kind of wanting to ask you about that. I've been meaning to give you a call and see what this is all about and what you're doing with it. And it sounds cool.
I mean, listen, I've done everything for everyone else. I'm doing it for myself now. With Shawn Ray TV, I'm able to get a little closer to the action. I can videotape things and grab that content instantaneously, whereas most of the other companies I work for, I was on assignment, and I would be limited to getting the content that they wanted. But there's a lot of nuggets with my iPhone, like anyone's iPhone. You can capture these moments and document them, whether it's just happen to run into somebody at the airport or you're at someone's house. I can put all that stuff kind of into my domain, which is shawnray.tv. I slowed down over the holidays in December because it's kind of like downtime, and I've been all over the world, Tad. It seems like I'm traveling more now than when I competed. But we kick things off this weekend, so I'll be grabbing a lot of stuff leading towards the Arnold Classic. This LA Fit Expo used to be the Pro Ironman contest. I won that in 1990. And then they grew it, and they added a small expo. We moved to Pasadena, and then
they took that out. They took out the Ironman Pro several years ago.
Well, because they moved it to the convention center because they realized that more people were coming for the exponential components of fitness. You know, with all the strongman and the arm wrestling and the bikini contest and all that stuff. It really expanded, and the bodybuilding was getting less and less, and now they just have a muscle contest amateur show with it. But what they're doing in LA at the convention center is a monstrous event because it takes up the whole convention center. It's where they have all the car shows. But all the snowbirds are out here. You got Dave Lieberman's here from Ohio. You got Jim Mannion's coming out here. I mean, everybody's going to be out this way, like Gaspari, all those cats trying to run away from the snow. But it really does give you a perspective of kind of like what's to come because they're launching all their new products. You see these guys that have been dieting and getting ready to compete. And now you have the Arnold Classic Amateur, which is a monster. Yeah. People are dieting for that Arnold Classic Amateur. I actually MC that. But I'll be at this hosting the Superstar Seminar. On Saturday, we'll start off with kind of the new jacks, which would be Reagan Grimes, 2-time Physique Olympia champion, Breon Ansley, Hani Rambod, the pro creator. He's going to be speaking from Evogen. We also got the new Mr. Olympia, Shawn Rhodan. He's not new, but he's the newest Mr. Olympia, so he's going to be lumped in that group on Saturday. And then we're also going to have Angelica Teixeira. I think she's won the Bikini Olympia twice.
I think so.
Yeah. So she'll be talking. I'm hosting that. And then on Sunday, we have the legends. We have 8-time Mr. Olympia Lee Haney, Rich Gaspari, Hall of Famer, Chris Cormier, the legendary trainer, and I believe Flex Wheeler. And Rich Gaspari, I'll be introducing Rich Gaspari into the Dumbbell Hall of Fame. So Sunday's a big day, kind of a reunion with me with these guys that came up. And I get to navigate through their careers, and I open it up to questions from the fans. And that's all sandwiched in between all the madness that's going on. You know, UFC has a footprint in our industry. I know the Tito Ortiz and some of those cats, they show up there. And then you got all the vendors, you know, so it's one of those big expos, and that's just a precursor to the Arnold Classic coming up.
So do you have you said you had a booth, or you're just going there to?
No, so yeah, I work with a luxury men's clothing company called Leo Rivet.
Okay.
And it's men's athletic wear, luxury athletic wear. So I'll be at their booth, but I'll be hosting this seminar, and Leo Rivet's come on strong. They were Leo Michi for the first 2 years. They changed the name, and they're relaunching brand new products and stuff,
yeah.
and they're going to be vending at the Arnold Classic as well.
Yeah, I'd like to see that, because one of the things I've always complained about is like not being able to find good
fashion. Yeah.
Well, you know, they make some decent stuff for ladies out there sometimes, but sometimes men, it's kind of like you get 1 or 2 options and that's it, or you have to fit into stuff that you don't look like you fit into.
Yeah, well, I mean, and these guys are making a lot of stuff like compression wear for some of the basketball players, soccer players, but you know, bodybuilders too. Yeah, bodybuilders wear it too because they want to feel like they're, you know, that it's form fitting and it's stretchable. Yeah. This is not Leo Rivet. This is Under Armour. But they'll be there at all the Fit Expos, and of course they'll have a big presence at the Arnold Classic. And I'm working with them, and I know they're in conversation right now with Tamer El Gundy, who's running the muscle contest, sponsoring some of their events. So they're coming on in a very strong way because all the athletes are starting to see that this is what they need. This is what they're lacking. You know, some nice gym wear.
I think I've seen 1 or maybe 2 other companies that do something similar. They do like dress shirts. It's like, who was it that was showing some of that stuff? I don't know if it was, I forget who it was. One of the Physique Pros guys out there who was.
Danny Hester. Danny Hester with us. He's there.
Okay,
right?
Okay, cool. Yeah, so it looks pretty cool. I'll have to check it out when I'm at the Arnold. I'll be there at the Arnold. I'll see you there at the Arnold, of course.
Absolutely.
Every time I think of the Arnold Classic, man, I have to tell you, I think of you because the very first one was that you won. You won the very first Arnold Classic, I think, right? Yeah, there you go, right there.
That's the second one I won. Let's get it right.
Okay, that's
Mike Ashley will correct me on that because I didn't win the 1990 because I failed the drug test.
Okay, well, in my mind, you still won.
He's real quick to remind me that I failed. I'm like, okay, I didn't win.
That was that weird 1 year where they tested and stuff and did some weird things or something, right?
Well, I don't want to downplay it. It is what it is. Right. I mean, I did not cheat. You know, like everybody, when we found out that Arnold was going to drug test that year in 1990, everyone that I knew came off of everything, including me. And so I certainly didn't try to gear up for that Arnold Classic. I was as clean as could be. But not knowing, you know, how they test, what they're testing for, they found some metabolites that were still in my system. And I was guilty as charged. So I did feel bad for Mike on one level that he didn't get to experience that thrill of victory, right? They're like, this is pre-internet, right? And what they did is they clumsily got the results back after the event. They fixed that at the 1990 Olympia 7 months later and got the results back the day before. So we all got in there. We did the piss test. I think it was on a Thursday. They got the results back on a Friday, and they started DQing the ones that failed. You know, Vince Comerford failed.
I remember that.
Van Walcott Smith, Barry DeMay, Mohammed bin Aziza. Mohammed bin Aziza failed.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Man, I totally forgot.
You know why? Because they didn't get a step on the stage. They got the results back before, and so they were spared. I want to say I don't even want to call it embarrassment because everybody in our industry was doing it.
Right.
But they didn't bungle the results because what happened in Ohio in 1990, and that was the second year they had it after Gaspari won. What happened in 1990, everyone saw what they saw, and they presented the awards on the stage, and everyone got back on the airplane and went to the four corners of the world. And because we didn't have the internet, it took 3 to 4 months for people that were from these other places to even find out that there had been a changing of the guard. So back then, some people you'd call the Gold's Gym to get the results, and that was more instantaneous because that was the hub. And then you waited and you got your Flex magazine or your Muscle Mag magazine. The show was in March, and you would be getting this in like May. And you open the magazine, and you're like, he failed? What? He failed? By the time they were reading that in May, I was training for the Mr. Olympia coming up in September.
Right.
So, Mike was the benefactor of that because he had won $25,000 on the night. And but when it was all said and done, he wound up with ultimately a $60,000 payday. And he wound up with the 1990 trophy presented behind closed doors. So he never got the acknowledgement of being a winner. And
they did publish in the magazine, right?
Yeah. By the time they published it, we were in August.
Right.
And
so not as.
And it's a non-event. It was a non-story. I mean, he wasn't on the cover of the magazine suddenly holding up the trophy. I mean, what we saw is what we witnessed. It's kind of like watching Lance Armstrong. Yeah, we watched Lance Armstrong win 7 of those Tour de France's, right?
I just saw him on Joe Rogan, the Joe Rogan Experience, on his podcast, and he talked about this. I'd never seen, and he talked about all this stuff, and he that was a whole in that industry, the drug testing. And
the different animal,
different animal, yeah.
And he went to great lengths to be a cheater.
Yeah,
I didn't.
Yeah, he actually made a mention of that and said that he really regrets the kind of tactic that he took. He was trying to defend his team and all that, and trying to not get people in trouble and not mar the sponsors that were. And then of course there was a cancer.
There was a lot of money involved,
a lot of stuff, and a lot of people at risk, and he didn't want. And he kind of defended that position and lied and stuff. And,
yeah, well, I mean, listen, he dug his own grave because I think America's pretty forgiving. And mind you, when we go back to 1990, we saw Ben Johnson, 1988, I think it was.
87.
Ben Johnson. Yeah, when he failed the test, we looked at him like, oh my God, what a cheater. But they were all fucking cheating. And when we get to the baseball, we saw Mark McGwire and Barry Bonds and Clemens and all these guys, doing what they were doing, which was incredible, until they got caught. We're like, oh, this is crazy. But they were all doing it. And by the way, Barry Bonds never got caught, and Mark McGwire never got caught. The stigma in the dark cloud is over their head, but they didn't get arrested, and they didn't have to forfeit any money. They didn't have to forfeit any contracts, and they never acknowledged any guilt. We know, along with Sammy Sosa. It's kind of how you perceive what a cheater is. And in 1990, you can't cheat if everyone's doing it.
The one fellow got caught in baseball. He wrote a book, and everybody
Jose Canseco.
And he sort of put some people on blast, and I guess got some criticism for that. But the thing
and he told the truth.
He did tell the truth. And whether doesn't matter what his motives were, he's allowed to tell his perspective, and he's allowed to tell his experience. But I don't know. I didn't read his book, but
I read it.
Oh, did you? Was it good?
I know Jose. So you would call him a rat because there are people that he outed that didn't want to come out.
Right. That's kind of bad.
Yeah, it is. But to validate his existence, he was playing alongside those guys. He had to call them out because, listen, if he's going to be on the chopping block and all these other cats were doing the same thing, I mean, I don't know. If I were in the same place and, I got a big mouth and it's hard for me not to tell the truth. It's hard for me not to tell the truth. And when I watched Jose do what he did, it's like, I mean, he sleeps good at night. He's telling the truth.
Right.
Mark McGwire and Barry Bonds didn't have to forfeit any money, whereas, Jose Canseco gave up millions of dollars to tell the truth.
Right.
And here's Lance Armstrong in the comfort of these 7 titles and all these. I think he had a $40 million deal with the UPS, or not UPS, but with the American Postal System. It's easier to tell the truth when you have that money in the bank. If you have to give that money back, he's definitely looking for salvation by just trying to clear his conscience. For me, I never denied it. I couldn't factually prove that the tests were erroneous, and I never denied that they were.
Well, at the time, I remember being in the gym, and I was in college at the time in 1990, and I remember talking about this whole issue when it came up, and me and a lot of my friends who were hardcore in bodybuilding scene, of course, I was competing. I was just starting to compete then in 89 and 90. And I remember we thought, why are they doing this? Like, we thought maybe the industry was trying to
make example.
Yeah, make an example, or perhaps try to validate itself amongst other big sports and to get some leverage to maybe have more TV time or whatever it was that the goals
failed.
It failed, totally failed. because at the time, and still kind of today, but not so much today, bodybuilding is still a fringe sport. Still,
Absolutely.
And so you have a very niche market that this appeals to. It's not and so obviously I think they were trying to make. I think for a long time they were talking about, like, Ben Weider and Joe Weider were trying to introduce us into the Olympics and stuff as well.
That was the original goal, and I don't know why they thought by cleaning up the sport that they were going to have more acceptance, because what attracted people were the fact that we weren't the average Joes. And I came along in 1990. I was the smallest guy. I think Steve Wisbaugh was the second smallest guy in that show. So a lot of people looked like they were trying to make an example of me. I was lucky I was only like 23 years old because I had a long career ahead of me. The irony of that was that in 1990 when they tested the Olympia and I passed the test, I happened to go from 13th place to 3rd. So I felt vindicated and redeemed. 1, I passed the test. 2, I'm now the number 3 bodybuilder on the planet in the eyes of the bodybuilding experts. And then here comes Vince McMahon. And McMahon changed the game because he started offering up all this prize money to people, and it made Joe Weider go a little further into his pocket. But just kind of as it relates to that whole 1990 fiasco, I sympathize with what Mike didn't get to experience. I wouldn't have had a problem if they got the test back before the show, right? Had they got the test back before the show and I fail, then I've got to make up that loss of money on the guest posing circuit. And if they tell me before the contest you can't compete because you failed the test, like Barry DeMay, like Van Walcott Smith, like Vince Comerford, and like Mohammed bin Aziza, I would have been spared the embarrassment too. They didn't. A lot of people don't even know that these guys were in Chicago in 1990. They never got on stage. Right. They were actually outside when they were notified. They went out and signed autographs and made some money doing that. But Mike Ashley had to live his whole career in the shadow of everyone saying that they made an example out of me and that Mike's not really the champ because he didn't really beat me. And in bodybuilding dialogue, nobody really cares what a person takes. They only care what you look like. And that's where this sport, for me, was very forgiving because, look, along comes Dorian Yates in 1991. Lee Haney never looked as good as he did in 1991 after the 1990 clean out. I call it the 1990 clean out because everybody had to get clean. But by 1991, everybody juiced it back up again, and you're like, holy crap, who's this Lee Haney, right? I mean, Lee Haney at 31 was better than he'd ever been, and he retired. And then that opened the door for, of course, Dorian Yates to come along, Nasser El-Sambadi to come along. Remember Jean-Pierre Fuchs?
Yeah, he was huge.
You ever heard of a guy named Paul Dillette? So suddenly the bubble and the dam burst, and suddenly everybody went up to 300-plus pounds. And suddenly looking at steroids or looking at anabolics was not such a negative thing. And there I was fighting in the land of the giants, holding true to my values of, trying to be symmetrical and following the footsteps of Lee Labrada and Samir Banu and even a Bob Paris in terms of the look. I didn't buy into the size game, but trust me, 1990 was a pivotal year that could have gone either way. Because if I had passed the test in 1990 and won, I would be a 2-time Arnold Classic champion. I could have gone on to change the game in 1990 with Lee Labrada, and we could have held off the coming of a Dorian Yates, because if the drug test had stayed in place, there's no Dorian Yates. There's no Paul Dillette. There's no Jean-Pierre Fuchs. There's no Mike Francois. All these people that changed the game. Nasser El-Sambadi could have never been Nasser El-Sambadi if there was a drug test. So that's kind of the side story that we don't really get to tell, because that's a big what if. What if they stayed with the drug test? What would our sport have looked like? I mean, I'm sure that Francis Benefato would have had a much longer career. I'm quite sure that Lee Labrada would not have retired from bodybuilding in 1994.
Right.
We could have had some looks in bodybuilding that we call now classic, but that was what I fell in love with. Frank Zane, Muhammad McAway, and these guys weren't natural.
Right.
But they definitely had a control mind over how and why they were using anabolics, what they were supposed to be intended for. So, they were not supposed to be intended to make you the biggest man on the planet. So and there was the abuse factor came in.
So you think that's like a vision issue, or not issue, but a vision, a distinction in vision? Because I talk about this a lot. That it seems to me like when I talk to Dorian, I talk to Jay and other people like yourself, and the people who were at that upper tier of this sport, who really were game changers, because you were a game changer. Dorian was a game changer in terms of really, you have a following of people that really resonated with your look. I did. You were one of my inspirations, but you and Lee Labrada, mostly because we're in the same height.
Sure.
But also the same stature. I didn't think I was ever going to be a Dorian Yates or a Ronnie Coleman-esque type of figure in terms of my physique. So, but in terms of vision, I always think that those individuals, and when I talk to them, they seem to have this, that they have an image in their mind, a very clear, distinct image in their mind about what they want to see from their body, what they want to produce, what they want to create. Or Arnold Schwarzenegger kind of talks about it in like Pumping Iron and how you kind of create like a sculptor, but you have this image. And so when all the drug push came through, or at least all the big mass monsters started to come out of the woodwork, like Nasir and everybody, do you think it's just a vision difference, like a distinction in vision, or do you think it's really just, hey man, these guys just wanted to take it to the extreme and see how big?
Yeah, no, I got to say bigorexia is alive and well. I mean, you can see it with the girls getting the boob jobs, right? I mean, it's one thing to have a flat chest. It's another thing when you see it like this. There's something else going on that they see that we don't. Right?
Absolutely.
So they see things in a more grandiose way. And as a bodybuilder, you have to consider that the origins are that of an artist. We're changing the way we look. Right. And we go to the gym, and the barbells and dumbbells are all the tools of an artist that would be the canvas and the oils and the paintings and the paintbrushes. So now we're left to our own devices of how we see our art. How are we going to construct what we're trying to visually see? What I see is not going to be the same thing that Dorian sees. One, he's taller. Right. Two, he might believe that because I'm taller, I can put more into onto this canvas. And more is not always better.
No.
But trust me, in the 90s coming up, Tad, when these judges were seeing things that they'd never seen before, can you imagine their jaw dropping when Lee Haney came back in 1991 after Chicago? I mean, Lee Haney looked like a totally transformed. It's like looking at Transformers. It's like if you've never seen Jurassic Park before, we have this vision of dinosaurs. We know that they're big, but then you watch Jurassic Park.
You're like, whoa, what's
the one with the new shark, Meg or something like that?
Yeah, Meg, yeah.
No, okay, there's sharks, and then there's the Meg. And once a judge sees a Meg walk across the stage and stands next to a normal shark, that normal shark doesn't look as dangerous or even scary anymore. It looks like a puppy. And so,
could you feel that when you were on stage during the 90s?
Absolutely. Let me tell you something. In 1988, my first Olympia, I never felt more like a little guppy in the ocean because I wasn't in shape. So I didn't feel. If you're not in shape, it's a different type of a feeling. I mean, I gained my confidence that I could conquer the world when I'm in shape because of the illusion.
Absolutely.
But when you're holding about 5 pounds of extra, whatever the hell it is,
and you look over the guy next to you,
yeah, and you see things on him that you don't have on you. I'm looking at Buried Amazed Christmas Tree, going.
Fact.
And the more I'm looking at Gaspari's calves, I'm going. I'm looking at Labrada, whose tan is impeccable. I'm going. You just by the time you walk out, you're defeated. Right? So whatever grandiose feeling you have about yourself, if you're not ready and you see the guys that are, now you're just a pace car on the racetrack. So when I showed up in 1990 and I saw Lee Haney, the wow factor wasn't there. I wasn't wowed by Lee Labrada. I mean, Lee Labrada I was revering from 1985. I'm like, that's the guy that I got to get in my rear view. So if I get him in my rear view, then I've arrived. And here we are in 1990, and I'm looking at Labrada. I'm like, 1989 in Italy, Rimini. I was there with Barry DeMay on my birthday. Labrada was second place. And sitting there, it's different sitting there in the audience watching the Olympia as opposed to standing on stage. My first Olympia I was in. So 1988, I was 13th. That's where I got blown away. But in 1989, I'm a spectator. And I'm looking at Labrada get second to Lee Haney. I'm going, it really is in the eye of the beholder. Because Lee Labrada had everything and then some, except the height and the weight that Lee Haney had. And I personally would prefer Labrada because it looked more attainable, being a shorter bodybuilder.
I agree. Mine was felt the same way.
Yeah, so now fast forward to 1990, and suddenly I'm there standing next to Labrada. I'm like, move over. I got this. And I'm looking at Haney, and suddenly from the audience in 1989 where I'm like, holy crap, I got to compete against that, to 1990 going, man, what happened? Where did it all go? There's no hamstrings. There's no calves. The arms aren't very big. The skin is not very tight. The girth is not there. Lee Haney did not impress me in 1990. Therefore, my confidence was even higher.
So that helped you. Did that help you?
Yeah, it helped me. I mean, the drug test helped me because I'm sitting here thinking, well, number one, the drug test is here. I'm assuming it's here to stay because this is my second one. And two, Labrada's not as impressive as I thought he was, standing next to him, as opposed to being a fan on the stage and also sitting in the audience. And Haney just was off. So I'm like, well, if he's off, he's going to get marked down. Well, Haney won and Labrada was second, but I had to understand that it's a marathon, not a sprint. I wasn't interested in Vince McMahon. I was interested in trying to become Mr. Olympia. And I knew that slow and steady wins the race. These are two older guys in front of me. My time's coming. And of course, somewhere throughout 1991.
Did you feel that like, hey, man,
absolutely. I told Tom Platz literally immediately after Chicago when they announced the WBF was here and the contracts were flying around. I pretty much told him, I said, dude, I'm next in line to be Mr. Olympia. Why do I want to go over there? I don't want to do a show. I want to compete. And we knew that WBF was a show because they told us. And so, yeah, 1991 was coming right after that. September, I moved to third. So 1991, I'm like, I'm going back to Ohio for the Arnold, right? And I'm assuming it's going to be drug tested. So from September to literally January, I'm doing the business. I got to go redeem myself. And it was like January, February that they decided they weren't going to test the show. Well, all bets are off for everyone. Now you go back to doing whatever it is that you do.
Right.
And for me, the last thing I wanted to do was go open a bottle and go like this. I don't want to load up. I don't want to ruin a good thing. I just got third. Why am I going to mess with what I'm doing? I don't know what's going to happen by changing my prep. So I don't want to be too dramatic about it. And in changing my protocol, I came in and I won the 1991 Arnold Classic, right? And it was very minor. The difference in poundage from the 1990 Olympia to the 1991 Arnold Classic victory was probably 3 or 4 pounds. Yeah. So I didn't change that much. 1991 Olympia for Lee Haney from the 1990, he had a full year off. Mind you, I'm the reigning defending Arnold Classic champion in 91, going to the Olympia in September. I'm cocksure that I'm going to do the business. My phone was ringing off the hook. I was getting all kind of mail, all kind of faxes. I wasn't getting email. To go everywhere. And I couldn't say no because here it's, 3,000-4,000 here, 5,000 or 6,000 there, 2 or 3. So I'm trying to strategize my lifestyle because now I'm going to be a homeowner. I took my Arnold Classic check from 91 and I bought a house. Now I got to put furniture in the house. Now I got to put the tile. I got to pay for the cars. Suddenly I have to find a way to offset this. And that's where they got the advantage over me because Lee Haney and all the other men were just training for the Olympia. They were already established.
So you were trying to stay in shape, and you were trying to do all these guest postings and appearances.
And establish my life, right? My life had changed. I won
the
Arnold.
Doing the business of bodybuilding.
Doing the business. And in doing the business, I took my eye off the prize. I showed up a little watery in Orlando. I have never argued about the 5th place in Orlando. That's when I posted in the Air Tonight by Phil Collins. And I knew I wasn't going to be in the hunt because the mirror doesn't lie.
Right.
I know I didn't look like I did in Ohio, and I know I'm going up against the world's best. Not to mention, I wasn't prepared for what I was going to see from Lee Haney. Now, mind you, Dorian had just arrived. Last time I saw Dorian, I guest posed with him. He was 300 plus pounds in 1988 over in Ireland, and he was just fat, smooth, and milky. Now he's here, and he's 230 something pounds, and he looks like King Kong. And then there's Lee Haney, he's King Kong. And now I got Vince Taylor over here, who's in shape. And of course, Lee Labrada's always a threat. So 91, I was there for the retirement party of Lee Haney, but I wasn't thinking for 2 seconds that I was going to be, alongside with Dorian and ushering this new era. But I felt the size factor coming at the 1991 Mr. Olympia because from there, everybody just started to explode.
So did that inspire you the following year to take the year off and just focus on getting bigger? Because you've always, like you said, you never really just sort of blew up. You always stayed relative. You made improvements and you did get a little bit bigger, of course, and fuller. But it was really more just, to me, it looked more like year by year. You filled out in places you need to fill out. You made your physique a bit more complete. Conditioning got better and better, so to speak. And you really just sort of perfected the formula that you were already winning with.
Yeah, and let me stop you there because I always felt if it's not broke, don't fix it. Right. The year I was in the Nationals in 87, Jim Mannion, who's seen it all and done it all, said if you were in the Mr. Olympia, you'd be in the top 5. So you can imagine at 22 years old that someone's telling me this after I just won the national championships, and all of my idols are in the Mr. Olympia. Lee Haney won his 3rd Olympia, I think it was that year. And I'm thinking, I could be there with Gaspari, I could be there with Labrada, I could be there with Haney. Yeah, like, right like this? Like I'm ready right now? And naturally, I wasn't ready because I was in college. I was living at home with my mom, and suddenly I got a contract to get my apartment. I got a car. I'm driving around. I'm enjoying being a pro bodybuilder, and I showed up and I got 13th in 88. No, I wasn't ready for prime time. So all of my mistakes were being made on the biggest stage. I was a young 20-ish athlete that didn't have the experience in a developing body that was waiting for maturity, and maturity comes with time.
Absolutely.
And so those little mistakes I was making them while I was doing the business of bodybuilding against veterans. Lee Haney had won his 4th Olympia in 88, and that was my first. And I just moved out of my mom's house. Lee Haney already established himself. So I didn't use them as barometers. What I used as barometers was that Labrada, McAway, Zane, Samir, they were able to do it without changing dramatically too much. So I never thought in my mind I have to be as big. I knew that what got me there was my condition. In 1987, the reason I beat Phil Hill, who was the biggest thing that I'd ever seen on a stage, was because I was in better condition. It was big, but I was in condition in all the right places. So when I showed up out of shape in 88, I didn't have to go back to the gym and work on my pecs and my back and my calves, my quads. I had to go back and work on my condition. So I stayed closer to my competition weight. I did more cardio. I implemented fish into my routine. I started posing after every workout. Posing became a part of my training, which prior to that it wasn't. So I started gaining control of my muscles so that what I saw in the mirror, I knew the judges were going to see. And that's where it became very competitive with the arrival of Flex and Chris and Aaron Baker. We all saw each other doing it, so we all figured that's part of it. And that's where we're no longer there anymore, because I would walk into the posing room after Chris Cormier and see a puddle of water. And I think two things. Either he was working his ass off in this room.
I need to get my ass working.
Well, no, either he's working his ass off in here or he's just fat and he's out of shape.
Right.
Either way, there's a puddle of water that I got to try to match. So these little things were playing on your mind I remember watching a film about Muhammad Ali going to Zaire to fight George Foreman.
Right.
And Muhammad Ali's trainer said he went in there to watch George Foreman work out, because Ali would come in and kind of, toy around with George, but he wasn't paying attention to the training. All Muhammad saw was this big gorilla throwing slow punches, methodical, wind-up punches. But when everyone left, the trainer said, I walked over to the heavy bag, and I saw the heavy bag and the indentation of where he was hitting the bag.
He's a heavy hands, man.
Yeah. He's saying, that guy's going to be hitting my fighter. And so Muhammad's not even thinking how strong this guy is. Well, when I walked in and I saw the sweat on the ground, it was almost this is
like looking at that heavy bag.
For me, it was.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking these guys are in here working their asses off, And so I got to match that. So when I went into the posing room and I closed that door, I wouldn't leave until I left some sweat on the ground. You needed to see my work, and we raised the bar for each other. That's gone because not everybody.
That's funny. I think that current day bodybuilding has been criticized, a lot of the guys, for a lack of attention to posing and presentation. And if there's one thing that I would say you're really masterful at, was your presentation. You put a lot of time into it. When you hit your poses, you knew how to look good in those particular poses, and you modified them for your particular structure and physique.
Sure.
And you hear this, people wanting the current bodybuilders to do this, and I don't see it that much.
No, and because it's too much work. It's more. You want me to do that on top of all the other things I'm doing, on top of my Instagram, on top of my Facebook? It's like, come on, dude. So if you don't have the examples, and those examples are disappearing, some of the old school guys are coming back to try to get these new cats to realize what you have to do.
There's also this element that I sensed then, and I sense now in the conversation with you, especially, that they're back in those days, like, I hate to say those days, but back in a generation back from where we're at today, and maybe even two, like where in your era, in the 90s, and even in the early 2000s, it seems like the pro bodybuilding community, the good guys, even the guys, most of the pros, all the pros, they seem to have a much more close-knit kind of community, talk to each other, or at least you were more aware in a more close proximity, and so that encouraged you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, listen.
Today, it's like there's pros, you don't even know who the fuck they're.
Yeah, I say it's like this. It's like if I'm an actor and I'm living in Nebraska, I'm only going to be so good because there's nobody else really doing the business. I've got to go to L.A. or New York.
Right.
And that'll elevate my game. And so making that pilgrimage back then, I walked into Flex magazine. I mean, everyone was there. So there was that. But then you have to respect and admire somebody like Dorian who could give a shit. He wasn't in Venice Beach training with us. He didn't want us to even see him. So it's possible. Lee Haney didn't live in Gold's Gym. Lee Haney was out in Atlanta the majority of his time. But
Animal Kingdom, right?
Yeah, the Animal Kingdom. There is something to be said to walk in and have that feel and be able to see it, and it becomes real. Because I'd get up on that cardio, and a 30-minute session would turn into an hour, just because of the people that are I'm watching him train over here, and I'm stargazing over there. There's Dennis Hopper, there's Gregory Hines. Oh, look, there's Lyle Alzado. And I could go all day doing this cardio. It's easy. It's like watching TV. But it's real life. Oh my, is that Linda Evangelista? Is that Jodie Foster? Holy crap, there's Magic Johnson. So for me, going to Gold's Gym was like going to Disneyland, and I just smelling the smell and hearing the weights, and then wanting to just not ever leave. And then when you do leave, you're like, what am I missing? I can't wait to get back. So I break my training sessions into 3. I do my cardio in the morning, come and do my morning workout with the weights, come back and do my workout in the evening and do another session of cardio. So Gold's Gym had that attraction and vibe because of the atmosphere. It's gone. But the attention to detail, like I said, about the sweat on the floor, most people would walk in there and go, hey, clean this shit up, and this is nasty, right? But I went in there with the psychology that somebody was in here working.
I got to match that or beat it.
Yeah, somebody was in here working. I got to match and beat it. And we would comment on it. We would talk about it. Like, how long were you in there? I was in there for 45 minutes. Well, I got to be in there for an hour. It's posing. Right. And so you're right. That's gone. But when we take it all the way back, you were saying when the change came from 90 to 91, and I was made the example in 1990 of what not to do in terms of failing a drug test. It didn't stick to me because I stayed busy. Most people today, it might change the course of their life. They fail a test, they lose 60 grand. It's the end of the fucking world. For me, it was the beginning.
Well, that's
I had other things. I had other things to focus on than to worry about not getting that paycheck.
But that to me, that feels like more. That feels very much like a perspective, a difference in perspective. You have always had a very. From my perspective, or my interpretation of your perspective, is that you always turn yourself towards what's progressive, what's positive, what can move you forward. Even though a lot of people may not like some of the ways that some of us, you or anybody else, like they may not like the way that we point ourselves sometimes or disagree with it. A lot, like you said, I think one of the things that I see is that you could have a guy or a gal out there winning everything.
Yes.
And then they have one loss and they're destroyed.
They're destroyed. And let me tell you something, Bertil Fox. Mike Mincer in 1980, Mike Mincer thought he was going to be Mr. Olympia, but what most people forget is that Mike Mincer was 5th. Yeah. Chris Dickerson was the one challenging Arnold for the 1980 Olympia. So it was a no contest, and Mike Mincer was never the same. Bertil Fox in 1983 got 5th place. He was never the same. I mean, not everybody can handle losing in a way where you can flip it upside down, but because I always knew that you can't win without being there, every loss for me was motivation to come back the following year. Losing for me was just a part of the grease on the wheel, because I have to be in the Olympia, number one, right, to validate my existence on this industry. Without being on the Olympia stage, I can't command the kind of money I was asking for appearances. I couldn't get the endorsements I needed. I wouldn't have gotten the exposure in the magazine. So out of sight, out of mind. You have to be able to take the good with the bad. Look, not only did I not win the Olympia, Labrada, Wheeler, Lavroni, Nasser, Taylor, the list is long that didn't win the Olympia, and we all competed because we thought we could. Now, that being said, there was enough real estate where we could all kind of coexist. While Lee Haney was winning, and Dorian Yates was winning, and Ronnie Coleman was winning, we still had a market for ourselves over in Spain and in Germany and Russia and all these other places where people liked us. They didn't like that look. The Lee Haney look didn't appeal to everyone. And Dorian Yates didn't appeal to everyone. And this is where the changing of the guard came in. I'm sorry. My daughter's she's printing out her acting script. That winner was validated by a select few judges. But the masses out there, you can't force feed something to me. I put up a clip of Ronnie Coleman at the press conference. Like,
I saw
Susie Susie likes apples. I don't like apples. I like oranges, whatever. So why complain? I think we all complain when we don't win to some degree because of what we give up in the pursuit of victory. But I have always said it's about the journey. Absolutely. The journey is why I'm still here. Look, I'm 18 years in retirement. My resilience comes from when I started at 17 believing that I could. Maybe I can't win, but I believe that if I have the chance, I could win. And I won these little small victories along the way that gave me the confidence that I realized I don't have to win the contest. I have to win the race. It's a marathon, not a sprint. There's a lot of things that being on that Olympia stage did for my confidence, did for my structure, my balance of my life, the way I pursue certain deals, managing contracts, dealing with foreign languages, traveling the world, having different relationships with different people. There's so many intangibles that going through the process of competing in the world's biggest show that changes who you are and how you do things. That there's too many intangibles to feel like losing a contest is going to destroy you. How many people have lost that show that eked out perfect livings for themselves? Lee Haney was this is the pinnacle up here, right?
Yeah.
You're dealing with if I want to be the very best, I don't know. Who would you say the best actor in the world is?
Oh gosh.
Yeah, it's very subjective, isn't it?
Yeah,
very subjective.
Yeah. There's so many really
Give me one name, because in the Olympia, in bodybuilding, in the physique world, you have to come up with one. Give me one. Wow. Give me one name. Just choose one person.
Well, like these days, I like Russell Crowe. I've always liked Russell Crowe.
Let's stop there. Russell Crowe's got a great body of work. I believe he probably even has an Academy Award for some of the things that he's done. I mean, 300. What's the one, the smart one that he did, where he's a brainiac?
Oh yeah. Beautiful Mind.
Beautiful Mind. He's got a large body. Now what?
Gladiator.
What if I say Clint Eastwood? Are you going to argue with me?
No, that's awesome.
Would you argue with me if I said Robert De Niro?
No, I wouldn't.
What about Sean Penn?
No, he's awesome.
We could be here all day. Yeah. Al Pacino. We can be here all freaking day talking about who's the best actor. Now, those guys have all eked out a living. There's only one person going to get the Academy Award or the Golden Globe or the Oscar. In bodybuilding, there's only one bodybuilder that's going to get the Sandow Trophy. It doesn't negate the body of work of a Flex Wheeler. No. It doesn't negate. Look at what Kevin Levrone did. He won literally on every continent. Look at what Vince Taylor was doing. I mean, Vince Taylor was doing it at like 11, 12 years older than me. Vince Taylor and I we competed in the Nationals in '87. He was third. He went on to win 5 Master Olympias. But he won a slew of pro shows. He's never mentioned in the conversation when we get down to like the top 10 bodybuilders. But he was doing it at an advanced age of everybody that came up with me and him. He won the Nationals in '88. That's where his career started.
Right, I remember. He
had a long run. Into his 50s, he had a long run. I retired at 35. But when you say who's the best and you look at who's got the Sandow Trophy, all right, he's got the Sandow Trophy. He has the Oscar Award. But is he the best? It's so subjective.
Well, I think we determine from our own mind's eye what we think the best is. Like, you know, and that's like we said, that's subjective. And I think history has to name somebody in a contest or in the Oscars or whatever industry. They have to name somebody, right?
Sure.
So the industry.
But knowing that, the smart bodybuilder, knowing that, can handle the defeat a lot better.
Absolutely, and that's
listen, Denzel Washington. He's not going to win the Best Picture of the Year. Does that make him any less of an actor? His movies are great. Does that make my routine, my performance, what I bring to the stage any less palatable with all of the fans because they gave the trophy again to Dorian Yates? I mean, can you imagine every year if Denzel Washington won Best Actor? How many people would be up in arms?
Yeah.
Tom Cruise, Will Smith. I mean, all these. What are they going to stop acting because it's always going to Denzel? Right. No. They're going to keep making movies. They're going to keep doing their art. That art for them is the same art for me. And I think understanding it takes away the negativity. It takes away the defeat.
Was that a sensibility that evolved for you from when you were in sports, or did you always have it?
I've always had it, Tad.
How did you have it? Because this is hard for people. You know,
listen,
they want to win so bad that when they don't, they feel like, it's not happening.
Listen. Okay, I'm in the Olympia in 1988. Everyone's telling me I'm going to be in the top 5. I know the reasons why I'm not before I ever get to the show. I'm a realist. I can understand I'm not in shape. I'm not going to be competing for the top 5. But hell, I'm going to be in the Olympia. So for me, the excitement of being there overweighed the idea that I wasn't going to be competitive. You know, I had looked at it in the magazines. I'd seen a video of it. But I'm standing on the stage. I'm going to come back the next time and be ready, right? And I did. I got ready. Hold on. I got ready in 1989, and I got suspended because I got injured. And Wayne DeMillia suspended me for a whole year, which affected me even qualifying for the Olympia that year. That's why on my birthday in '89, I'm sitting with Barry DeMay in Italy, watching the Olympia from the 3rd row instead of being in the Olympia. But I didn't harbor that I got screwed of competing in that show. I needed to study what I'm going to be doing with my body, and so by watching it. You know, I was in awe of Lee Haney and Lee Labrada.
You were able to take your notes and say, hey.
I did take my notes. And remember, 1988, Barry DeMay was 3rd.
I remember
so
that.
he's also taking notes. He wound up tearing his pec.
I know.
Now he had to reevaluate his career, and I'm sitting here thinking, I'm sitting next to the guy that got third in the Olympia, and his career is in jeopardy, and I'm watching Lee Labrada and Lee Haney that look like they're Greek gods that are a million miles away from my economy. It's one thing when you see them in a magazine. It's another thing when you're watching them on stage.
That's right.
And my next Olympia was 12 months away. And guess what? I wound up in third place. I took Barry DeMay's place. And suddenly, Lee Labrada and Lee Haney became human. They were no longer superheroes. They were people, for me, that I felt were beatable. You know, they put their pants on one leg at a time. So I was able to understand that, look, I may never win this damn thing, but I'm going to do everything I can do because I've arrived. I'll do everything I can do with what I have. That's why I was telling you, by changing what I was bringing to the stage, I would have had to get chemically involved to a degree that would have made it a very short career. Because
do you think that's part of your success and longevity of your success in your? Because your physique really, some physiques morph, they change, and they really don't change for the good. There's some aspects that are good, like they make it a lot bigger, but there's some aspects that don't. Dave Plumbo's a great example of this, where he was really, I mean, early in his career when he was very large, but he looked so much better by the end. I remember the last time he did the USA's, the joke was, look, here's the chemistry experiment walking on stage, and he just kind of like he didn't look that good, you know?
Well, you can say the same thing about a lot of guys that they changed. Listen, Jean-Pierre Fuchs was in 1997. You thought, what in the hell? You see this guy's back? And the next thing you know, they all got the bloated stomach. Right. They all have the hernia. You know, Tom Prince had that big belly button that was sticking out. And how many guys in the 90s? How many guys in the 90s did we start hearing hernia? Hernia wasn't around in 1980s.
Right.
In 1990, Lex Wheeler, Paul Dillette, every bodybuilder on the planet was getting a hernia. I have to believe it was growth hormone induced, and then insulin came into the game. But it was a chemical thing that was making these guys develop hernias, which is a very prominent thing in our industry, and I don't think it's as a result of anabolic steroids. But as that stuff was changing, I didn't feel I needed to change with it, because I knew it was a marathon, not a sprint. I'll give you an example, and I like using analogies, but I got to a point in my career towards the end where I could afford to buy a Lamborghini Diablo.
I saw that one.
Everybody that got in my car, and trust me, I wanted to share that car with everybody because I felt like this was my dream. Like I want. This is a result of me lifting these weights, right? I mean, this is me eating chicken and fish. Nobody gave this to me. I earned this, right? Get in, come on, get in. This is what bodybuilding does, yeah. But I was a control freak. I know that speed kills. I never challenged that car. I respected the speed and the horsepower of that Lamborghini the same way I respected my body. I knew that if a little is good, a lot's not necessarily better. And so when and where I could, I tested it a little bit. I stepped on the gas a little bit and just challenged it just once in a while. But I kept it slow so people could see me. Tupac says, picture me rolling, picture me rolling. Right. If I'm going fast, you can't see me.
You can't see me.
Right? So I cruised. I didn't get any speeding tickets in that car. So when it comes to the analogy of the anabolics in our industry, if a little bit is good, then the mindset was that a little bit more might be better. And man, if I felt this pump and I feel this size and I look this good, give me 3, give me 4, give me 5. And the bodybuilders couldn't save themselves from themselves. And then you throw in a guru who's like, how many of those are you taking? 2? Well, let's take 4 for this one because you need to be 10 pounds heavier. Everything is 10 pounds heavier. And when you're in your late 20s to early 30s, 10 pounds heavier is not going to look – it's not going to be a good look no matter how you slice it. But you have the trainer and you have the guru and 10 pounds, we'll get there and here's how we're going to do it. Now you're giving away what got you to where you're at. Right. You got there because of this. When you change it dramatically, it's not going to necessarily mean the same thing.
You're rolling the dice. It could mean good stuff. It could mean bad stuff.
And I got friends of mine that are 6 feet under as a result of rolling the dice. So it's a cautionary tale that, you know what, if you're able to get there on the straight and narrow in a way that's healthy, stay that way. Because everything after that you start adding to the mix, whether it's a new trainer, whether it's a new diet, whether it's a new carb, whether it's a new anabolic or growth hormone, all those little things, it becomes what happens when you're making goulash or what's the other one? Come on, gumbo.
Menudo.
Sometimes it tastes great. You know what? But now when we go to this expo this weekend, I'm going to have Gaspari throwing out samples and BPI throwing out samples, and all these companies are going to be throwing out samples, energy drinks, protein, whey, and all that. If I take all those samples during that weekend, That's a party in my stomach. I might be, hey! But by the time the day is over,
you're going to be like,
yeah. You're not going to be able to pinpoint which did what to you.
Which did what. Yeah, exactly. I think you nailed it also earlier. I think it's another big piece of this is that a lot of times we have a culture in Western society that says more is better. If this is good, then more is better. And if 10 pounds is good, then 20 pounds is better. If I can be this much on stage, maybe being this much on stage is better. I mean, even Ronnie Coleman was, 290 something at that one Olympia, and then had to really sort of rein himself in because waistline was getting bigger. Even though his conditioning was still good, was still very good.
Ronnie did not get better every year, okay? Neither did Dorian. The only one that got better at the end of his career was Lee Haney. And that's because he was forced to clean out in 1990. Now, every one of those guys, including Phil Heath, progressively got worse. In their last Olympia, they were their worst, period. That's why they lost. And some of them got a gift and, a courtesy Sandow along the way. And we knew that. We understood it. And the bodybuilders can go around bitch moaning and complaining all they want, but Kevin Levroni's still making a living off of the Olympia stage. Flex Wheeler's still making a living off of it.
He never won the.
I never won, and I'm still making a living off of what I did on that Olympia stage. I mean, look, Pete Rose, for all intents and purposes, is still famous because he played the game. Forget what he did at the end. He played the game, and he's still Pete Rose, forever will be, along with Barry Bonds. But where the rubber hits the road in our industry is that everyone right now is talking about the bodybuilders of yesterday. I was one of those guys. How many people wouldn't give their right arm to be Frank Zane? How many people are really missing the look of a Bob Paris, a Lee Labrada, or even a Samir Banu for that matter? They miss me. Right. They would love to go back in time and bring the quality that we no longer have. It's gone the way of the 8-track, dude. It's gone the way of the – remember you used to go get the newspaper out of the machine, you drop your quarter, open it. That machine is gone. It's on your phone.
Right.
Exactly. I mean, you can't go to the airport and drop a quarter and pick up the phone.
As a matter of fact, even the phones are gone. It's our cell phones. Like, you don't even have home phones.
So let me tell you what else is gone is that quality thin paper skin with that symmetrical look that's not – you're not going to get blown away when they walk on the stage. You're going to get blown away when they start to move because, listen, if Frank Zane walked on stage, he looks like a swimmer. But when he poses, he looks like an artist. And, I mean, we just don't see it. The physique guys are trying to mimic it, and the classic physique guys are trying to bring it back. But there's no more Frank Zanes. There's no more Mohammed Ben Aziz. Because the chemistry's changed.
So do you
the protocol's different.
So I'm curious, from your perspective, do you think that's the reason, that's part of that influenced the decision at the end of this last year's Olympia with Shawn defeating Phil?
Listen, wait a minute. But don't go one thing at a time.
I mean, when you talk about a look, because it's a very different look. Shawn is a very different look.
They told all the bodybuilders the last several years, and I got Arnold Schwarzenegger on record. I've got Jim Mannion on record saying, look, you keep coming in with the bubble guts, we're going to mark you down. Mm-hmm. And that almost happened to Kai Greene against Cedric McMillen 2 years ago at the Arnold Classic. 3 years ago at the Arnold Classic, Kai was going to lose that show to Cedric McMillen because he was bloated at prejudging. Somehow or another, he sucked it up and he changed and transformed in several hours, and he won that title. Phil Heath did not come back a different bodybuilder from Friday to Saturday. He came back the same bodybuilder, and they took the title off him. And this was a contest of midsections because, of course, Phil's got a much better back. Phil's got much better arms. But at the end of the day, your stomach is involved in every single pose. Right. Side tricep, side chest, even the rear double bicep.
So it's like really a choice to sort of go back to an overall aesthetic look. So, like, in other words, like, we can't just say, "Hey, look, the biggest guy wins." They've been
doing this. Listen, if it's like Donald Trump right now, he says, "Look, we're going to build the wall, and the Mexicans are going to pay for it." Well, if it was as cut and dry, we would have the wall because he's been in the office for 2 years now, right? And so now the wall's not built, and there's some pushback, there's some blowback because he wants the Americans to pay for the wall. Now, how does that relate to what I'm talking about? 4 years ago, Arnold Schwarzenegger saying, look, you guys, we're going to mark you down for the bloated stomach. Jim Mannion, we're going to take points away for the bloated stomachs. You keep hearing it, and finally they decide the bloated stomach is not going to get rewarded. Look, if you don't adhere to the rule, you're going to become a victim of the rule. What did Phil need to do to win the Mr. Olympia this year? He just needed to come in with a tight midsection because he's a better bodybuilder than Shawn Rhodan, and Shawn Rhodan knows it. But what's Shawn's ace? It's his midsection, and even Shawn's stomach is starting to kind of get a little bit big. He better be careful. But because he adhered to the protocol, You cannot continue to reward someone that's not paying attention to the world. And then Phil acknowledges it. He says, oh, well, you know what? I had stomach surgery last year. You know what? After this show, I'm going to have stomach surgery again. He already knew there was a pre-existing problem. So the pre-existing problem precluded him from actually winning the show. The judges didn't do anything wrong. They did everything right. And I think it was a unanimous decision. And I agreed with it. I think Phil, in hindsight, the further away he gets from that show, he'll accept the defeat. He'll accept the defeat that he lost to not a better bodybuilder, but a bodybuilder that adhered to what the judges had been saying they were going to be rewarding.
Well, yeah, based on that criteria, Shawn was better on that day.
Absolutely.
From those, and I remember Jim came up to me at the backstage, like before they announced the results, and he says, "Hey, what did he wanted to know my opinion and how I would have judged it?" And I said, "Well," and I looked around, and I said, "Shawn." And he's
well, it's unanimous. You're not the only one. Yeah, listen, it was unanimous, Tad. So look, it's hard to see someone lose because of their stomach, but the stomachs were getting out of control. It should have happened in the 90s. Listen, it should have happened in 94. Let's be honest. If you're going to take it away, let's go back a decade. And it would have stopped this evolution. Remember Ronnie Coleman came in the Olympia 2000, and he was really freaking big.
Yeah,
and then he went in the Arnold Classic in 01, and he was as light as he was. It was like 247, and he looked the best he ever looked. And, of course, he got comfortable and came in heavy in 2001. That's where Jay Cutler should have beat him, my last Olympia. And they gave it to Ronnie again. So, I'm glad that they did the right thing. But if we're going to protect the athletes, it has to start with the judging. And the judges are going to dictate the look. I was part of the evolution of the change of the monsters coming in. I don't feel bad about it. I lived in a great era of bodybuilding. You got to remember, I'm 18 years removed from the Olympia stage. That's a lifetime. 18 years, that's giving birth to an adult kid, right?
Yeah, right.
So that's how long I've been off the stage. I've been off the stage longer than I was literally on the stage as a pro. But with that, I came up in a time people keep talking about the golden years. It was golden because you had so many athletes that could have been, should have been Mr. Olympia. Very competitive with all these different looks. And all we talk about right now is the look of the 90s.
Right.
And so many of those guys could have been the best actor. They could have had the Golden Globe. They could have had the Academy Award because of their body of work. But we're not judged on the body of our work. We're judged on the sum total of our appearance on the day. And here's where I think the judges got it wrong, is they became overwhelmed with size. And it's easy. Listen, I told you, a girl that's flat-chested that goes to get a nice little perky boob job, it could change her life and how we perceive her. The girl that goes in there and goes like this, she's going to be limited in how people view her, right? There's going to be limited job opportunities for her. There's going to be some stereotypes that are going to come with it. There's going to be some things that she can no longer even do. And that's what happened to the big Jurassic bodybuilder. And we go down that list. I'm famous for repeating the Deadpool list, but Matt Duvall, a super heavyweight national champion. Don Youngblood, a Masters Olympia winner. Greg Kovacs, the biggest bodybuilder, was 400-something pounds. You're probably too young to remember a guy by the name of Trevor Smith, but Google him. Trevor Smith used to have a website on bodybuilding. He was good friends with our good friend Chad Nichols. He's like Trevor Smith. Hold on, and then we get down to even more recently when we start talking about the bodybuilders that disappeared. Give me somebody that just recently died.
There was a Hawaiian guy, Masters Olympia winner, I think the first one. What's his name? I loved him. Taller. I think he was from Hawaii.
Well, Sonny Schmidt.
Sonny Schmidt. Yeah.
Sonny Schmidt had cancer. I don't even want to include that because people die of cancer every day.
Okay.
But,
I thought it was a heart attack. No, it was cancer.
No, he didn't. No, he had cancer.
Oh, okay.
He was in jail. He was Samoan. Okay. But he's another one that was he got sixth to me at the Olympia in 1951.
He was great.
Yeah, he was phenomenal. But if you die in your body,
he was older too. He was like in his early 40s.
But if you die as a bodybuilder, you die from steroids. I mean,
right.
It doesn't matter.
Right.
It doesn't matter if you got cancer. But when you start looking at all the bodybuilders that have checked out, a lot of these guys were big boys. I mean, Piana's dead, obviously, because of the things he was doing. I mean, Dallas McCarver's dead because of the things he was doing. And I think if we had nipped it in the butt pre-Ronnie Coleman, Ronnie Coleman would have just been a big bodybuilder, but we could pick him apart. There's
right.
things, the water retention, the bloated stomach, we could pick him apart and take it away. Dorian Yates, when he got injured, came with a bloated stomach, we could have taken it away and did the right thing. I think somewhere along the way, we got away from doing what was right. And this past Olympia, the judges did what was right. The fans embraced it. The athletes embraced it. How many bodybuilders do you think, Tad, are out there right now thinking they can be Mr. Olympia? I mean, let me tell you, you don't think Rolling Winkler thinks he can beat Shawn Rhodan? You don't think that William Bonek thinks he can beat So that's where you have a contest. Because now suddenly a guy that everybody's beaten before is the champ. And all those bodybuilders believe that, hell, I could beat him. So in the 90s, you don't think that if I had won that Flex Wheeler would have felt he could win? Or Kevin Levrone, had I won, feel that he can win? We were all taking turns beating each other. That title should have floated through all of our hands, and we should have had a bunch of different Oscar Award winners and Academy Award winners. Our sport would be huge. And right now, with Shawn Rhodan winning, tell me, bodybuilding right now is more interesting than it was had Phil Heath made history and won number 8. The buzz would not be there.
Right.
And Phil Heath, if he wants to prove everybody wrong, he's got to come back. And let me tell you something, it's a lot harder. Jay Cutler will tell you, it's a lot harder coming back. If Phil takes a year off, I don't think we'll ever see Phil again.
Well, I just had Phil on the show, and he said, like that's his plan is to try to come back this year. But if he can't, he wants to be able to have the latitude to pull the brakes on his prep. So he's not committing anything just yet because he may feel like he needs a full year. But I do think he and I agree, and I think it's motivating to think of this as a really wonderful story, because that's the way I would be thinking about it if I was in his shoes and I told him that. If I was in your shoes, this to me is just a great story that I'm going to be able to play out, a great story of greatness in the sport of bodybuilding that I could play out in my own life, and that would keep me fueled up so that I don't disappear.
And that's what I said about Kai Greene. Right now, Kai Greene should be in the trenches.
Absolutely.
Because he's not a spring chicken. If he ever thought he had a chance to be Mr. Olympia, it'd be right now, right? The X factor would be Phil, because that's his number one challenger. But when you're 2-3 years removed and you start thinking about the business and you've been living a little bit, and this is where Phil could be affected. Right now, Phil would normally be training for the Mr. Olympia, but instead he's nursing another second injury.
I think he's posting day 4 in the gym now. So day 4.
Let me tell you something. When you start training for the Mr. Olympia, it begins and ends with the win. Like you go right back to work. And to go back in with one hand tied behind your back, knowing that you've got these 2 surgeries you're battling with, like Dorian Yates, like Jay Cutler before him, the only thing that's waiting for him is an injury. Because if you're not doing the things that you did to win those first 7, it's going to be a different physique. It's going to be a different training. It's going to be a different process. Absolutely. And if you take a year off and sit on the sidelines, this is not like Marcus Allen being benched by Al Davis and then being traded over to Kansas City and being the comeback player of the year. As a running back for Marcus, it was great because he spared his body. As a bodybuilder, you sit on the sidelines and these other guys do the business trying to come back. You saw Flex Wheeler. You saw Kevin Levrone. And Phil's over 40. I
think he's just turning 40 or 39, 40, something like that.
But you're over 40.
Right.
Only one guy out there that has that unicorn type over 40 thing, maybe 2. Vince Taylor had it when I was coming up, and Dexter Jackson has it. Phil Heath, I'm not 100% sure. But I can tell you, when you get civilized, it's a different animal going back in that gym and trying to win again against these guys that you normally beat. So Phil's got a lot on his plate to think about, but the 2019 Olympia should not be one of them.
Oh, right. Yeah. A lot of people say that. They think that he should take this next year Olympia off just to try to get himself right and then really apply himself.
I'd love to see him make the comeback in 2020. However, I think it'll be a failed attempt. That's my personal opinion. It has nothing to do with him as a person or his work ethic.
No, why do you think that? Why do you think that he let's say he put 100% into it,
okay,
and it was able to apply himself 100%? Why would you say that he would have be challenged?
This is not 1975 to 1980 where Arnold took 5 years off and came back. Right. Now Arnold was 28 years old. Right. Okay, he could afford to do that, and at the time he didn't have the depth of the field. But in this industry of pharmacology, where it favored Lee Haney from 90 to 91, taking a year off, cleaning out, and coming back. Lee Haney was 31 years old when he did that. We're talking about a 40-year-old bodybuilder that's had double abdominal surgery. I don't know how invasive it was, but I could tell you my abs play a factor in my pull downs, in my low pulley rows, in my squats, in my leg presses, in everything I do. This is the core, and this is the problem. So now you're going to tell me you're going to take a year off and you're going to come back even a year older, and you're going to not have that championship Olympia training under your belt that you've had consecutively.
All that momentum.
He's had a decade of that training, and now you're going to take a year off and take your foot off the gas. It's not going to be the same finished product a year from now. And if it's not the same finished product that made him who he is, Nobody wants to see Phil Heath light. Go do classic. You saw what happened to Flex Wheeler in doing classic physique. No one wants to see Phil Heath light. He's going to have to do the things that got him to where he was. And if he does the things that got him to where he was, it's going to wind up
with the same
reoccurring. Right. Absolutely. You wind up, you do the same thing, you expect different results. He could potentially put himself in harm's way. And I would hate to see that because he's got nothing else to prove. And really there's nowhere to go but down. Make history? What kind of history? You're going to win the Olympia for the 8th time. What happens if you go in there and you're Ronnie Coleman or Jay Cutler 4th or 5th? It didn't hurt them as much.
Right.
Didn't hurt them as much. But there's nothing to really be gained on that stage. Let's be honest. If you're not fighting for first.
Well, given that comment, how do you see the future of bodybuilding in the next 1, 2, and 3, and given also that maybe Kai Greene might, because I think he should.
Well, we all do, but Kai Greene's the enigma. He actually has terms. It's like in the mind, it's not like, okay, all I got to do is sign the contract and then train for the Olympia. Okay,
like,
for me,
how you going to promote me? How you do this?
Yeah, no. Listen, you can't go negotiate with the Olympia. Right. You get a contract that everyone else gets. You either sign it or you don't. He's over here thinking, well, you're going to use my name to promote your show. Well, you're going to be putting my picture on the program, and you're going to have me do this. They're going to have you do everything that you did to build who you are. They don't know who you are if you take away the Olympia. The Olympia put you on the map. Kai Greene is like a 3-time Olympia runner-up. You take that away, Kai Greene is just a guy that lifts weights. Now, social media is giving you some power. Hey, I've got 3 million followers, and I've got my supplements, and I've got my clothing, and I got my headphones. You got options. Yeah, you're a businessman now. But when it comes to the Olympia, you're just an athlete. You're just a number. You're not bigger than Olympia. They don't need you. And by the way, if you win the Olympia, you do know you get like $400,000. Well, you have to do certain things to be a part of that process. Yeah, you might have to be on the poster, which you've done before. Yeah, you might have to go to the athletes meeting and the press conference and get the free tracksuit and show up for the seminar the day out. All the things that you've done, how many times? Why is it different now?
So it's like it's almost like a very much a mentality change of sorts. Like he has a very different perspective on what the Olympia owes him, maybe, or
and let me tell you something. The Olympia doesn't owe him anything. Without the Olympia, we don't know Kai. I mean, you can win these other little shows here and there, but take away the Olympias from his career, and he doesn't have that same star power. So someone's giving him bad advice, or he's interpreting what the Mr. Olympia is. The Olympia is 50 years old before him. The Olympia may be 50 years after him. Yeah, the landscape's changing because we have classic physique and bikini and all these other things. But if you're trying to be Mr. Olympia, you're watching the sands of time slip away because he's not getting any younger. And no one's going to be that much more interested in someone that hasn't competed in 3 years in Olympia because they're going to be focusing on the ones that are. I mean, right now, the fan favorite is Roelly Winkler. And mind you, little freaking William Bonek, he's already got a little sniff at second place. And you have guys that are still hungry to try to move up. Shawn's incredibly hungry to defend his title. And Dexter's not going to go away quietly into the night until he's like out of the top 7. You know what I mean? So as long as he can draw a paycheck, he figures I'll just do this until they don't want me anymore.
Well, I would, if it was me, if I were Kai Greene, I would be thinking, I agree with you. I would be thinking of this in terms of, and it would actually just elevate him even further instead of trying to see it as, hey, I'm elevating you, I'm elevating this contest. Because that's kind of what I sense. That, like when people say, oh, well, you're going to use my name, that kind of infers that, oh, well, I'm helping you.
You're not a part. He will and never will be a part of the organization of Organize the Olympia. That name of his is not necessarily going to make or break the Olympia. They've done it the last 3 years, right? I mean, we've seen Phil Heath and Shawn Rhodan win the Olympia, and the Olympia is doing just fine. I think if he's going to look at it as a business, he needs to go Conor McGregor on this bad boy, document the process of the comeback, promote himself in the mediums and the markets that he can, make a new video, write a book, do whatever the hell you want to do to monetize this process, build your following up by another 1 million people because we're all excited for the comeback. And then if he doesn't win, it doesn't matter. Right?
It's already a win.
Yeah, but if it's about the money and negotiation, well, then you need to focus on the art of trying to become Mr. Olympia because that's going to outlive anything that you do. There's 14 Olympia winners. I can name them like my children. I know who they are, and you know who they are. They're immortals in the world of bodybuilding.
Right.
Super Bowl champions, they're all immortalized. They all have the ring. They all have that Super Bowl. It lives forever, right? It's going to outlive us. So if he winds up coming back, that's what you should be thinking in your head as a bodybuilder. Like, I knew that not winning the Olympia wouldn't devastate me, but I also knew that if I won it, I'd be immortalized. So that was part of my pursuit. It got me out of bed every day. Yeah, it's nice to make the money. Yeah, it's nice to have fans. That's nice to travel, all those things. But I never in my wildest dreams thought, let me go talk to Joe Weider and negotiate how he's going to use me and find a way to monetize that.
Well, what do you think is in the mind? What do you think is in his mind in terms of what moves him in his career?
Listen, as an athlete, the only thing that should be in his mind is that I could be number 15. I can make history. I can go down in the annals of bodybuilding folklore for the rest of my life. I don't have to do jack shit. All I have to do is win it once. We know Dexter. We know Samir. We know Chris Dickerson. These are one-off guys. Shawn Rhodan, they all have one Olympia title. People can talk about them for the next 50 years because they did it, right? If Kai Greene is the purest bodybuilder that he started out to be, and he's a lot more than just being a bodybuilder. I've talked to Kai in depth. I'm not knocking him for this, but he has other things in life.
Right, sure.
But he only has this one shot, and it's a very small window.
Well, I would think it would also infuse all these other interests as well. He's artists, he's all these other opportunities.
Oh, yeah. Trust me, it would bring the spotlight to everything that he's doing. But you know what? The clock's ticking. Because if it was me, I would have started January 1, made my announcement, and everybody has 9 months to celebrate my comeback.
And you're what everybody's talking about.
Yeah, who's talking about Shawn Rhodan?
Yeah.
They're going to talk about Kai. But you're fighting the clock now because eventually no one's going to care. So if he announced that he's coming back in July, okay, you're going to make a splash, but you wasted 6 months of advertising, and it's a business, right? You're doing it for the business now. You're a businessman. Well, part of the business is to get out in front of the machine. So if it's a secret and you got to look in the mirror and you got to wait for your body to transform, those are things. This might be a show you're not ready for. So I can't knock him for that.
So it sounds like he's getting some conflicting business advice, conflicting from your perspective and my perspective, which is go do the Olympia no matter what, because you stand to benefit. Whether you get first or second, you're going to benefit.
He's already met with the people from the Olympia.
Yeah, I know that. I know. I don't know what that conversation was.
And you do know that when I got ready and qualified for the Olympia, I never had a meeting. Like, what are we going to meet about? Where's the contract? Okay, where do I sign? I'm going to go in there and do what Shawn Ray does.
The last thing I would think that you'd want to do, especially as promoting the Olympia, this would be my perspective. If I were promoting the Olympia, the last thing I want to do is negotiate with an athlete like that.
No, and
you set the stage in the future for this is just a bad thing.
It was open and shut. They heard what he had to say. He went there wanting to hear what they had to say. Well, all they had to say was like, look, we'd love to have you back.
Yeah, exactly.
And so Palumbo interviewed him in Dubai, and he's like, well, we're not there yet. Yeah, we still have some conversation to do. There is no conversation when it comes to Olympia. Yeah. And sadly, as black and white as things are, and Kai's not black and white, dude. Kai's a lot of colors of the rainbow.
Right.
And you ask a question, and you don't know how long it's going to take to get the answer, but you'll get something that's meaningful because he's very cerebral. But when it comes to the Olympia, I would think that at this juncture of his career and this time of his life, there's only one thing that's left to accomplish if you have the stamina, if you have the gas in the tank. And that's to go do what you do. You're a bodybuilder, go back and bodybuild. If not, keep doing what you do. Keep on planting the seeds and sharing the wealth and being the missionary and being Kai Greene because it's working for him. But as a bodybuilder fan, we want to just see him do it, right?
Yeah, maybe that's kind of what he's doing. Maybe because I can kind of see that he maybe – I'll listen to maybe having that meeting is sort of an exploring the opportunities. If they're going to offer me something wonderful, something special, then maybe it'll incentivize me because it just sounds to me like maybe he's not really that motivated to go do it after all.
You know what the incentive is? If they're going to offer me something, you're competing for $400,000.
Well, I mean, yeah.
Listen, he competed in Brazil for 20.
Right.
Okay? He competed in New York for 10. I mean, look, if suddenly it's come down to how much you're getting paid to do this, then this is not something you need to be involved in as a bodybuilder.
Do you think he's asking for something more?
Well, of course he has to. Otherwise, he would have said, yes, I'm doing it. Okay. I mean, there's something that's being held out, and it's not coming from the Olympia side because the guy on the bottom end of the totem pole, let's say Sergio Oliva from last year, he was offered a contract to compete on the same stage that his father was. For him, That was incentive enough. Where do I sign? I want to compete in the Olympia. My dad was Mr. Olympia. I want to see what this is about.
Right.
Kai knows what it's about. He's been third 3 times, or second 3 times. So he knows like Gaspari. He knows like I do. He knows like Labrada. He knows like Lavroni. He knows what losing that title feels like. He also knows what it might feel like if he wins. And let me tell you, on the night, it'll feel $400,000 richer. So if it's about money and incentive, that's enough.
And second place is how much?
150.
So even still 150, that's all right.
It's more than he's ever made.
Right.
It's a bigger payday than he would ever make anywhere else. So if you're going to compete other places and you're going to boycott the Olympia, now Phil's not in it. So either you have a better reason why you're not doing it.
It just sounds to me like it just sounds to me like maybe deep in his heart he really doesn't want to do it, and that he's just trying to convince himself by maybe asking for some of these incentives to see if you know what I mean. Like he's just really trying to move himself to that space.
It doesn't hurt to ask, and negotiation is good. Unfortunately, this is an industry that doesn't negotiate.
If he really wanted to do it, he would just do it. Right?
That's my point. So we can't slag him off, but clearly when this is not happening, I have to assume that he's interested in other things that are very fruitful. So no pun intended.
So when you look at this next year, this year's Olympia coming up, who do you see as the
listen, I haven't missed this Mr. Olympia since 1988. Do you know how many years that is?
What is that? 32 years? 31 years? Something like that.
It's a lifetime. I've never missed it. And predictions are not one of my specialties. However,
I'm not asking just who you.
I know, but I'm saying, however, history shows the reigning Mr. Olympia is always the favorite because we've only witnessed maybe 3 times. Can you name the 3 times?
Gosh, Ronnie, Jay, right? Those two, they flip flopped a little bit. And who's the other one?
You know, I'm a historian, so it's all right.
I know.
Listen, in 1984, Lee Haney beat the defending champion Samir Banu.
Okay, that was one I missed. Yeah.
Samir Banu won that night, and in 2007,
I don't think he's ever gotten over that.
but he was young, so he stayed on and did it for a long time. But Dexter Jackson beat Jay Cutler in 2008. Right. Of course, the year before that, we felt that Victor Martinez should have won as well in 2007 over Jay, but that didn't happen. And then we saw the upset, of course, Jay Cutler defending, and we also saw Jay Cutler regain his title. Jay Cutler came and he beat Dexter Jackson. Right. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, this year with Shawn Rhodan. So it doesn't happen that you have all these multiple Olympia winners for nothing. It happens because that's the standard, and everyone else has to rise to that standard. Right now, Shawn Rhodan has shown that he's Mr. Olympia. How many bodybuilders on that pro stage right now believe that Shawn can defend that title? And it's nothing against Shawn. But to me, that Sandow trophy has to feel like butter. Because the things he has to do to hold on to it, it's going to be an act of Congress. I did interview Shawn in October, and I said, Shawn, what are you going to do to hold on to that title? And he says, we have to talk to my trainer. To me, right there, that was passing the buck. That's a red flag for me. You don't know? We got to talk to him? Okay, so let's bring your trainer up.
Chris,
let us train it. What Psycho
Fitness, yeah. I actually coached Chris for a couple years. He's a good guy. I like him a lot. I did his nutrition. I didn't do his training. I did his nutrition.
Well, listen, it ain't about the trainers, and I never give the weight of the trainer the credit that they think they deserve because it's the athlete that still has to walk through the fire and fight the fight. And at the end of the day, when Shawn Rhodan said, "Talk to my trainer," I thought, "Oh, here we go."
You're not.
Chris came up. I said, "Hey, what does this guy have to do to defend his title?" You know what he said?
What?
Got to put 10 more pounds on him.
I said that
is a recipe for disaster. This guy's over 40 years old. He ain't never put 10 pounds on in 1 year in his life. He doesn't have to be 10 pounds bigger because he beat everybody that's going to be there this year, and you're going to change what got him here to be 10 pounds bigger for what? Because if you're asking me what the guy needs, Stevie Wonder can see he needs bigger arms, more triceps. He needs a better chest. Mm-hmm. He needs more lower back.
None of that stopped him from beating Phil.
None of that came out of the trainer's mouth. None of that came out of Shawn's mouth. Shawn didn't know what he needed to do. His trainer did. So there's some confusion in that camp. And I'm not on board. I'm not on board with the mantra that you win it, you keep it. This is a confused camp in my book because they don't know what they actually need. They said everything except what I believe that Shawn needs to hold on to that title, and none of it was addressed. So for that reason, I think this is going to be a wide open Mr. Olympia.
Do you think the reason why there's confusion in the camp is because they didn't really anticipate winning this Olympia?
I could tell you that Shawn always believed he was going to win, and
I knew that.
And Chris believed he could win, and you know who else believed?
Could and would are two different things.
No, listen, I always believed I could win. So
Right.
they did everything. They did everything to position themselves to win, and they fucking won. I mean, that's how it is. It's like the lottery. But there are people, Chris Aceto that he works with, and my buddy Gianrico. He said like 2 weeks out that Shawn was going to win. Shawn always had the potential. Shawn was the first runner-up before. You know, he won the Arnold Classic in Europe, and he's won some shows. Shawn's no pushover. He showed up a year ago off, like, right? He had the broken jaw. He had the broken jaw, and he had the ulcer. And he had a baby. I mean, the guy had all these things happening to him to prevent him from showing up right. And when he finally showed up right, Phil showed up wrong.
Right. Good formula.
But when you ask, what do you have to do to hold the title, and you come back as 10 pounds? Where? Like, his legs are almost too big. Right? His shoulders are getting really funky. The arms almost appeared small.
Right.
And the back is very shallow. So the things that I thought I was going to hear from Chris the trainer and Shawn the champion were not the right answers. And these other guys have momentum. They're salivating at the mouth right now.
If it were me, if I was in the camp, I would say, look, we need to perfect what we have. If we can gain a little bit here and there, that's fantastic. But increase the depth in the back and work on perfecting the look that we have, because it's what won. And so, like you said, like, this formula wins. So why try to change the formula?
It's a black and white question. Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
they don't
I
have the
agree.
answer.
No, I agree 100%. While I still think that, I mean, like, I don't think anybody would disagree with that. He needs to have a little bit bigger arms and a little bit bigger. But to make that the formula for winning the next year, to gain 10 pounds or to add this extra weight, I don't know if that were the case, then he shouldn't be the winner today, right? I mean,
no. He won the contest fair and square. We agreed to that because Phil was off. And Phil genetically probably is a superior bodybuilder because he has things that Shawn can only dream of. But that said, who's in third? William Bonek or was Roelly Winkler? Can Roelly Winkler make the leap over and take out Shawn Rhodan? Yeah, he can, and he has before, and he doesn't have the prettiest body. But here's a guy that, if he does what Shawn Rhodan does, shows up in shape, tight, and dry, and not 10 pounds bigger like Big Ramy. Big Ramy didn't realize that if you come in bigger, you're going back, and Big Ramy fell all the way down to 6th place. If Roelly Winkler dries up and comes in lighter, Roelly Winkler can leapfrog over all those guys.
So do you think who stands the best chance in your mind to, like, if Shawn doesn't defend his title? Let's say he goes there and he just makes some mistakes or whatever it is.
It's happened before.
It's happened before, and you know, doesn't make him a horrible bodybuilder. But if he doesn't duplicate his win, who do you think stands the best chance?
I mean, listen, Roelly has the momentum,
right?
And we can't discount William Bonek. William Bonek did exactly what I told Neil Hill he was going to do. He was going to come in too heavy. Neil Hill thought he should be bigger. He came in bigger, and he didn't do as good. And that was predictable by me. I think he kind of fell out of favor because I told him, I said, you bring him in bigger, and it's going to be to his demise. And I think William Bonek, because he's so short, the stomach is like high.
He gets really
and any extra weight is going to make you look boxy, straight up and down.
He looks like
and
a Michelin guy,
it just too much muscle. He's too small, and the aesthetic look that got him there kind of like got washed out. So they got to be very careful playing around with William Bonek's weight.
Yeah.
But he's beaten Shawn Rhodan before, so. It's a contest of attrition. Like anything else, you start to see the older guys come backwards and the younger guys come forward. The same way Jay Cutler sat behind Ronnie Coleman those 5 years and he ultimately caught him. Well, Jay Cutler had the advantage of youth. Ronnie was getting older. Shawn Rhodan ain't no spring chicken. He's got to be 43, 44. At least. So we're not going to see a lot of changes on him. And I damn sure know that if he puts on 10 pounds, it's not going to be 10 pounds of muscle, not at this age. So he could wind up doing himself in if he's trying to gauge his progress by the scale instead of by the mirror. And if I'm Roelly Winkler, I don't care about the scale because he's the biggest thing we've seen. He needs to just stay on the cardio. And this right now is probably the number one thing that he believes. He believes he could be Mr. Olympia. And Shawn Rhodan is Mr. Olympia, and it might take a little bit of the hunger off. They always ask, which one's better, the first one or which is easier, to win the first one or defend the second one? I think it's easier probably to win the first one. Defending the second one, you still have to encompass all those demands of travel, negotiation, and suddenly the reality. He wakes up looking at the Sandow Trophy every day. It's not as hungry, right? So, and he's a dad, right? I mean, he's got some things that he's going to have to transition to in terms of acclimating to being Mr. Olympia. And I'm not 100% sure at his age he's going to have the goods if he plays the weight game to defend that title.
Do you think that where do you think Ramy is at this? Because he, like you said, he fell back. I was surprised. I wasn't surprised that he fell back to the place that he did, but I was surprised that he didn't make the improvements. He seemed to be making improvements, small improvements from year to year. This was the first year that I saw where he didn't make the kind of improvements that I was hoping for. And he seems like he's always talked about, of course, he's this phenom sort of from the get-go, but yet hasn't been able to really crystallize the physique that he's needed to be able to win at the Olympia. So
he's gonna have to compete and gain his confidence back in one of these shows prior to the Olympia. His thing was not a matter of lack of effort; it was just coming in too heavy. Again, playing the size game. He was definitely heavier this year than he was last year, and he actually looked better at the finals this year than he did at the prejudging. And so it's hard to catch up when you show up off.
Yeah, and then right after the Olympia, I don't know all the details, but I think he left Bader's camp there, and then I think did he come back?
No.
So and then he talked. I think he wanted to. Who's he working with now?
I think it's Neil Hill.
Neil Hill. Yeah, so I mean, a good person to work. I don't know if I don't think it's going to be the trainer or his coach that's going to be.
It's the athlete. It's the athlete. Listen, if Ramy's not straight here, he's done. And I already heard it on good authority that it's not a heart of a lion. I mean, Ramy's a genetic freak. He did the heart of a lion, the desperation of trying to get there. He's got options. He's already got on record as talking about he's got this fishing business, these boats or whatever it is. It's very hard to push someone that doesn't want to get out of bed and do the business. And so he's going to have to feel desperate. And I don't know that feeling of desperation for him is there. We may have seen the best of Ramy that we're going to see. But if he's not desperately trying to be Mr. Olympia, and by that I mean just drying out and sacrificing and focusing on bodybuilding and not the business, then we've probably seen the best of Ramy. But him squatting or him doing leg presses and all that stuff, it's the wrong formula for what he needs. He needs to get in there, do some heavy bent over rows, and work on the detail of the back and get those thighs down and drop that body weight.
I'll tell you the guy who I think, and I love your opinion on this, I'll tell you the guy who I think has the most potential. I think he's got the potential to be the next Mr. Olympia if he wants to, is Brandon Currie. What do you think of him?
Well, that's a very generous view.
I really do. I love I like his structure. I like,
Brandon has done nothing but improve. I'm not sure that he's getting the recognition he deserves yet. I was there when he won the Ferrigno competition. I believe he won the second or the third Arnold Classic over in Brazil. I was there. I've watched him in victory, and I've watched him slowly ascend and finally break into that top six. I think he was fifth place this year, right? Yeah. But he's vanquishing some guys that are just not the same, though, right? I mean, Big Ramy fell off. Brandon's done a very steady climb up. The hamstrings and the calves is just something that I don't think will ever be there. All right, and I don't think the back thickness is going to be to the degree that a Phil Heath will be, but it's on par with Shawn Rhodan. So, and the shoulder width for the waist is just a genetic phenomenal.
He's got nice stomach.
The stomach is good. He's got to make sure he doesn't come in too much bigger also. And if he's just consistently consistent and doesn't try to reinvent the wheel, let these other guys make the mistake, and he'll be able to ascend up towards the top. Right. Like Roelly made improvements to get to top three. Brandon Currie was very consistent, but he's also the recipient of Ramy falling off and the recipient of William Bonet coming in smooth, and also Phil Heath not looking as good as he did. So he's in there. I mean, he's put himself in a good position to fight. Now he's got to show the improvements this year.
So what would your advice to him be? Like, just
don't play the size. Don't play the size game. You can't compete with them on the size game. You got to get ripped. Somebody on that stage has got to come in peeled. It only takes one time.
Yeah.
you know why we know who Barry DeMay is? It's because he came in peeled in 1988 at the Olympia.
Rich Gaspari too, when he was the first guy to really be super straight in the glutes.
Listen, the 3 years that Rich was shredded, from basically 87 to 89, somewhere in that range, or 86 to 89, those 3 years of being ripped put him on the map. Right. After that, he was no longer ripped anymore.
I mean, everybody wanted straight glutes after that. Like everybody, it's like a standard. You know,
If you come in peeled the one time and you could write your ticket, but you got to, for Brandon, he's got to rely on some other factors. He's got to rely on some of these other genetic athletes to coming off, because he's not going to outmuscle Roelly Winkler. And standing next to Roelly Winkler it can be intimidating. Even though Brandon looks great, there's a lot of poses he gets lost in. You know, there's certain poses by himself he looks great, and that's where I fall in love with Brandon Currie, because by himself he does look great in a lot of poses. But then when you compare him with some other guys, you start to pick him apart.
I think some of it's just a mental change. From at least that's the way I see it. I think when he starts to project something different on stage, when he really feels the champion that he is, that he wants to be on stage, when he really feels that and starts to really sort of project that energy, I think that his physique will change, his presentation will change, everything will start to change.
Yeah, you don't think that right now Roelly Winkler's walking around like he's Mr. Olympia? I mean, the guy's
he's the one that everybody talking about. I mean, everybody seems to be talking
swagger. Yeah, he doesn't have a real pretty physique, man. But I mean, if he continues to rip it up and stays lean, and you know, he's one of those guys that had the fat stomach, and he showed him with a flat stomach, and they rewarded him.
Who do you like coming up at the Arnold Classic?
Interesting. We got 3 champions there. We got William Bonek battling it out. We got Cedric, and who's the other guy? Victor Martinez, a little older. Yeah.
They say he's looking pretty good, but
yeah, Father Time catches up to everybody, and I'm telling you, it starts with the calves and the legs. It's a tough one, and he already had some stomach issues that he was battling, so I'm hoping he at least addressed that. But the Arnold Classic is pretty wide open, man. I mean, I remember when we were just talking about Cedric and Dallas, and then William Bonek won it last year, but I didn't really see William Bonek coming other than from the Olympia, right? But I didn't see anybody really challenging him. This year, there's going to be a challenge. This is not going to be a walk in the park for any of those cats. And it's unfortunate we're not going to see Big Ramy, because this would have been a nice place to redeem yourself, right? Whoever wins this show is going to have the runner spot going into that Olympia title. I think this is going to be a very good contest. I'm not good for predictions because I don't know what people's off-season trainings are, but you know,
I'm just seeing who you like though.
Well, I mean, I love Cedric. Listen, I'm a Cedric McMillen fan. As much as Chris Aceto talks shit about me regarding Cedric, I love Cedric. Cedric is a promise unkept when it comes to Mr. Olympia, but it seems like at the Arnold Classic he rises to the occasion.
But not at Olympia.
No, well, it's a long run to the Olympia, you know, and so here from like basically November till the Arnold, there's nothing going on, right? But he seems to peak in March, and so aesthetically, Cedric's head and shoulders above everybody. And all he has to do, he has to get rid of those. What is it? Brown? What does he wear? He wears black posing trunks.
Yeah.
It does nothing for his physique. He's got a beautiful body, but those posing trunks don't. And the music. Every once in a while, he picks the wrong music.
Every once in a while?
Yeah.
Maybe one time he didn't.
He needs to do something.
No, yeah.
I've seen it. Yeah, he's got to do something with that. And he, on paper, should be the Arnold Classic champion. That's my odds-on favorite going in because the lineup is not really, really right. But these are guys that have all beaten him, and they've all taken him to the ropes. But these are guys in Columbus where he could take them down. He could surprise them. And he seems to get up for the Arnold show. For whatever reason, he gets up for Columbus, you know?
Maybe it's the time of year. Maybe it's
it's one of those things, dude. I'm telling you, you run out of gas by the Olympia, and then you fat and happy through the holidays, and suddenly you do the business.
It's tough to because the Arnold happens like early March, and then the Olympia is in late September. So it's practically 2 ends of the year, and to be prepping for the first part of the year all the way to the Arnold, and then to be prepping again for the Olympia is basically all year of dieting, right?
That's why you got to give Dexter Jackson props because he did it for a number of years. He won 5 of those things, and he didn't miss an Olympia along the way. So you got to remember when Jay was winning the Arnold Classic, he won 3 of them.
Right.
It's a tough run, and he was getting second to Ronnie. So not everybody can do it, but I mean Cedric seems to get better in March, and ideally I like his physique a little bit better than everybody else's.
Now this is I'm always interested about mindset and stuff like that, but because I like your mindset. I think you turn towards the positive naturally, especially when you were a competitor, and even now in business, you have you're very focused in terms of what you want to achieve, and I think it's clear for you, and I think I like that. Who of these guys that we're talking about, or maybe someone that we're not talking about, who do you think has their head on their shoulders right when it comes to achieving what they want?
You know, with the internet, man, you don't really know these guys.
Right, I know it's just a guess. I'm just
because they could put out a certain persona, but I mean, you got to have an admiration and respect for somebody like Jay Cutler. For me, Jay is exactly who I've known when he was 11th place in the Mr. Olympia. We're not close, but we're still friends. And to watch him do what he's doing with his career, to embrace the idea that doesn't have to walk around at 280 pounds to be validated. I know my boy Kevin Levrone had an identity crisis for many, many years when he lost the weight to become an actor, and he'd show up at the Arnold Classic and blend in, and no one would recognize him, and he just wasn't comfortable. But you know what? Most of these athletes come to our sport with hang-ups.
Well, that's why they get into it,
bigger,
right?
Body dysmorphia, bigorexia, no self-esteem. Yeah, and so if your identification is walking around being a big bodybuilder and suddenly you're no longer that guy, walking up to some of these YouTubers and Instagrammers and seeing the lines that they have could throw a monkey wrench into your mind because, hey, I won this contest, you're not recognizing me. And I've had people come over and go, God, these people don't recognize you. You're the legend. I go, yeah, but dude, it's a different time. Yep. You walk into the Arnold Classic Expo and you got some chick over here with 5 million views, and you go, who's that? Oh, that's the girl with the big ass. It's like you go to her Instagram and all you're looking at is butt shots. You're like, she's got 5 million followers because of her butt. And some other guy that just, shows his abs or does some, what's that cross training stuff. And that's the day and age that we live in. When you go to the Arnold Classic, it's not all about being a bodybuilder.
Now, from my perspective, you are very easily recognizable in terms of like the way you look today, the way you looked then. You don't. I hesitate to say that some guys, they don't look the same because they're so much smaller. You're really not.
Well, Tad, it's January 24th today. I haven't been in the gym at all this year. Okay. Not once. I'm starting February to go back to the gym. But because of how I carried myself on season and off season, you don't know whether I'm getting ready for a show or not. I mean, I didn't walk around in a tank top. I wasn't walking around at 250 pounds. I mean, I'm 216 pounds today.
I know you're.
But I competed at 212.
Right, exactly.
But I never gave a lot of stock in trying to show my body off. I performed for money. I guest posed for money. And the rest of the time, I wore what I have on, long sleeve shirts. I'm not the guy where you think, oh, wow, your arms aren't as big as you used to. Yeah, some people go, wow, you're not as
That was big. The first, remember, kind of funny, that was the first time I ever met Flex Wheeler. It was in Maryland. He was, personally, and I remember seeing him in the lobby. He was there guest posing or had a booth or something. It was at the Maryland State Championships. I got second that year. And I remember when I saw him, it was probably 1996, something like that, 96, 97. And I saw him, and he just looked bigger than life. And he had this sort of, these cutoff shirts, but it wasn't cut off, but it was sewn that way. It was like sleeveless. And of course, he had those bulbous muscles, bulbous deltoids and arms.
We call it Esiclin shoulders.
Yeah. I was just in awe. And I remember, wow, and then today he seems like a very different kind of a person.
Well, let me tell you something. When that's gone, you're as a fan, you're like, what happened? But I was never that guy. I wasn't that guy trying to be 260 pounds to be at a point where I looked like I might have been all drugs. A lot of bodybuilders were. A lot of them were very, very, very puffed up and big and chemically induced. And then when it's all gone, you're like, well, what happened? Well, what happens is you stop competing. Yeah. You're no longer getting paid. It's like, I don't see Joe Montana and John Elway walking around with their football helmet on. Like, is that the only identification we had with them? Like, they played a game and they wore a helmet, and now the helmet's off. We don't expect them to look the same. Bodybuilders are the only ones that are measured on how you look throughout your life. I mean, we're going to get older. I have no pretenses that people aren't saying Shawn's small or Shawn's fat or Shawn's old. I know exactly what I am and who I am. But, dude, I'm also retired. So I don't spend my waking hours in the gym training my body because that's what I did for a living. That was my job. And I didn't do it. I didn't do it for the money. Okay. That was my profession. And as a teenager, I was training to become a professional. So that was my ambition. Then it became my job. And then I retired from my job. And now it's a hobby. It's a recreation. So I don't hit the floor and go, I got to go to the gym, because I did that from 17 to 35. Now it's like I have other things that get me out of bed, other things that I'm interested in. If I feel like going, I'll go. I want to be healthy. I want to live a long life. I like to eat my pizza and my hamburger, so I try to offset that by doing a little cardio here, a little weight training there. But can you imagine I'm in the gym training like I did when I was 30 years old? One, I'm not getting paid for that time, that investment. And two, I could get hurt. And you'll be surprised. I just saw Branch Warren walking around the Olympia Expo with his arm in a sling. He hasn't competed in 3 years. What the hell happened? My bicep. How many athletes are retired, aren't competing, walking around with a cane, not with a cane, but maybe on crutches, or their arms in a sling because they tore their pec, they tore their bicep. That's
still trying to do the stuff that they're doing before.
Still trying to, yeah, that's what's waiting for you. You keep on trying to do it.
I know you criticized, not in a horrible way, but you just made a criticism of Ronnie Coleman for still getting in the gym there. Today, like these days, trying to still be in the gym, training.
He just got out of the hospital again.
I know. I saw that. By the way, I saw that Netflix special of his where you were in it and sort of mentioned some of these things. And on one level, I agree. But yeah, man, like you probably should be thinking about some things that are bigger than just going to the gym and training and stuff like that. But I sensed from at least the way they put that documentary together, and I don't know Ronnie all that well at all. Actually, he's one of the few guys I don't know, one of the few Olympians I don't know. But it seems to me like the reason why he goes is because he truly loves training. It's part.
Listen, hold on, hang on a second. That's like talking to a boxer.
Right.
Let's take freaking I don't know, Larry Holmes. Larry Holmes wins the thing. He's done fighting, and now he's 50-something because Ronnie's 50-something.
Right.
And he continues to fight in the ring, and we continue to hear his voice being slurred, and he's stumbling around, and he's punch drunk. It's like somebody's got to say, "Hey, Larry, you can't box anymore.
You're done."
Yeah. Look, if you want to go hit the heavy bag and exercise, that's one thing, but there's no more. Take the weight off the bar, Ronnie.
He should have stopped 10 years prior, like Larry Holmes should have easily.
Listen, I've always said this, and I'll say it again. If you die doing what you love doing, it's a glorious death. If you're a race car driver and you slam into the wall at 200 miles an hour and you die doing what you love. If you're a boxer and you get hit in the head and you die in the ring, hey, that's what you love. If you go down squatting 600 pounds and that's it, yeah, it's a horrible way to die. But it comes with the job, right? So when a bodybuilder, a boxer, a football player winds up wrecked and beat down and torn apart, because they continue to do what they loved and they didn't know when to say when, it's hard to be real sympathetic to it from my perspective. Right. Like I have sympathy for Muhammad Ali because he had Parkinson's disease, and Parkinson's disease can come without getting punched in the head.
Right.
But he didn't ask for that, and he might have stayed around for a few fights too long. If you want to know one, watch the Larry Holmes fight in 1980. He should have never had that fight. Right. But even still, that wasn't his last fight.
I know.
They couldn't stop the guy, and he continued to fight, even when the Parkinson's was revealing itself. And so it might have exacerbated his condition. He lived a good life. He lived till he was like 80 years old as the greatest. Ronnie Coleman will always be the greatest. And he's real quick to tell you, don't feel sorry for me. But I'm real quick to say he did it to himself.
Absolutely.
Because
we do everything to ourselves.
Yeah, he retired in like 2006. So here we are 13 years later. How many years is that? I don't know. Is it 13 years? About 13 years later.
Yeah, something like that.
The training didn't change. And whatever surgeries were waiting for him after 2006 are a result of you do the same thing, it's going to get worse. If you know your brakes are bad and you don't change them and you keep grinding, eventually you're going to grind the brakes down until you have brakes.
You're going to be done.
So I watched Ronnie, and it's well documented, his training style. It's not the best technique. And I also heard the doctors say that, no, we don't advise him to train anymore. And then I watched him hobble into the gym and train anyway. I watched him have back surgery and continually work out, like do the leg presses and do the things, even if it's therapeutic. At some point, you reap what you sow. So God bless Ronnie. We don't want anything to happen to him. But if you die doing what you love doing, hey, man, I mean, we'll be there to give you a standing ovation.
And I told you so.
Well, it's not even I told you so. I never told Ronnie to not lift. Yeah, but I'm saying I never told Dallas McCarver to stop getting too big. But I did say that Dallas mixing Red Convict 1, Aaron Singerman, and Chad Nichols into his camp was going to be a sure recipe for disaster and death.
So what?
And I'm not Nostradamus, but he died 6 months later.
I don't remember you saying that, but tell me why.
It's on YouTube.
Yeah, I know. I didn't hear that, but
it's a fast track to death, man.
Why would you like? What was the formula for you?
Look at the bodies. Look at the bodies. I mean, Chad Nichols has worked with who? Nasser Al-Somebody.
Okay.
Where's he at?
Right.
Chad Nichols worked with Don Youngblood. Where's he at? I mean, Flex Wheeler had kidney issues during his career. Who was he working with? Did Tom Prince have a kidney transplant? Kidney failure? Yeah. Trevor Smith, he used to work with him too. So that's all well documented with respect to Chad Nichols. And here's a 25-year-old going to work with Chad Nichols. Come on, man.
So do you think it's just that he's pushing the envelope?
Listen, Dallas McCarver's dead.
Yeah.
That didn't happen until he got with Aaron Singerman and Chad Nichols. So you do the math. Do the math with the people that are dead that worked with those guys. Right. I mean, I don't have to point fingers. I'm just saying, look at the bodies.
Right.
Look at the bodies. So with Ronnie Coleman, who worked with Chad Nichols as well, he's well documented talking about the 2001 Mr. Olympia, where he wound up in a bathtub the night before the show with a bathtub full of ice because his body cramped up and he had to drink a gallon of water. It's on. You could just Google Ronnie Coleman almost dies Mr. Olympia. Who was there with him? His trainer, Chad Nichols. Michael Jackson is dead, and he had his doctor in the room. Ronnie Coleman almost died, and he had his trainer there. So all I'm saying is, look, count the bodies. But these things happen, and with Ronnie, what he was doing, he's intelligent. He's got a degree. He's real quick to tell you he's got an accounting degree. Really sharp, smart guy. But what he's doing, he was doing to himself. And, it's time to take up something else. Maybe go swimming. Maybe play ping pong or something. Play cards.
Do you think it's the mentality of the guy who really wants to be a champion that fuels this?
He was a champion already. He didn't.
But what put him there was this mentality that's pushing.
Yeah, but dude, look, you don't think that these other athletes want to be the best in the world? I wanted to be the best in the world. We're not that much different. He has 8 Sandow's. I don't. But look at Lee Haney. He walked away at 31 years old. I mean, some people have to have something to walk away to. And Ronnie has like 10 kids and a business that thrives. But because the gym was his sanctuary, it's like my mom. She's going to be 80 years old. She smoked my entire life. And she wound up with COPD and emphysema and all that stuff, and literally was forced to quit smoking. But those things had to happen for her to stop smoking. Right. Well, the things that Ronnie's experiencing now may have had to happen for him to stop going to the gym. And we don't know that he's not going to stop going to the gym. He may very well go. What I was saying in that documentary is, where are the people trying to stop him from going to the gym? Because the gym is doing this to him. You know what I mean? I couldn't stop my mom from smoking.
I don't know if maybe there are people in his life that are trying to sort of cushion that and stop him from going to the gym, and they just can't, just like you probably couldn't stop your mom. They probably can't stop him.
Is it very hard to be very sympathetic at that point?
I get it.
It takes the sympathetic side out of it and say, look, he's doing what he loves to do. Let him have it.
Well, you said it perfectly. Yeah, you reap what you sow, and especially when you know what you're getting. You're getting these results. I
got a lot of backlash for saying that. I got a lot of backlash for saying the truth.
I think it's because people just felt that it was a little insensitive to. Because they love people, we love our champions, whether it be you or Ronnie.
Someone's got to say it, Tad.
Right.
I mean, it is what it is.
I agree.
Listen, if you tell me I'm short, what am I going to argue with you? I'm 5'7".
Hey, man.
I'm short.
I'm short too.
Okay. I mean, look, what we were talking about in that documentary were all the things that he shouldn't be doing. Listen, I loved watching Muhammad Ali dance through the ring and knock people out and become the greatest. But man, it was brutal to watch him shake like a leaf, lighting the Olympic torch in '94. But I also knew in my mind that he reaped the rewards of being the greatest, right? Ronnie Coleman reaped the reward. He was talking to us while he's getting in his Rolls Royce. You know what I mean? It's hard to feel sorry for somebody in a wheelchair talking about, Ronnie doesn't feel sad for himself, so I don't feel sad for him either. So when you say sympathy, that's where I remove myself. I'm not sympathetic for Ronnie as he's rolling around in his Rolls Royce and traveling the world and being an ambassador. He's living a life that most of us could only dream of, and that bodybuilding put him there. So if he has to do it on crutches, if he has to do it from a wheelchair, it is what it is.
I think we, as a culture, we absolutely want to have people that we love, our heroes that we love. We also want to have people that we kind of criticize or hate.
Yeah, that's true. And I'm one of those guys you love to hate, man.
Hey, man.
Listen, I'm a punching board for that. But I have no malice in that. You know what I mean? Ronnie did things that I could only dream of doing. All of us could only dream of doing. If you told me when I started bodybuilding that I could win the Olympia 8 times, but I have to train the way Ronnie Coleman would train, I couldn't do it. But if you also told me that I would wind up like Ronnie Coleman is in his physical state today, I would choose not to do it. Because for me, you cannot buy health. Right. And all those trophies that are sitting on his mantle will never put him back on a track and field. And his kids are really, really young. Well, he's got really young kids. And I think about mine doing gymnastics and dancing and traveling and the things that I would not be able to do from the standpoint of Ronnie Coleman's disposition. There's not a Sandow trophy or a paycheck that I would swap with him to do it. But, for Ronnie, it was all worth it. He says it. He says it's all worth it.
Well, I think this speaks to me, what this speaks to, and I'm a student of human behavior. I study this stuff and everything. I think the reason what makes you sometimes people criticize you, or at least that's the sort of attitude that's sort of presented, is because when you present these opinions, and I agree with most of the things that you say when it comes to stuff like that. I absolutely agree. I think it's because you have a very different sense of self. So your sense of self, and so somebody like Ronnie's sense of self may be different. And so that motivates him to do these different things because it makes him happy or whatever. But what makes you happy, it's very much that when you, not wanting to always be big, not caring about what people think. I mean, these things are really tough, like you said, for some of these bodybuilders to get out of this ring of, they always got to be big. And even when they're retired, and then it ends up really doing some damage in their lives. Yeah. And so, to me, it speaks to how do you really see your own identity, how your own sense of self. Where's your value? And I sense that you see your value somewhere else than just being the bodybuilder.
I never lost sight of the fact that I was a good bodybuilder, but it was just something that I did.
Exactly.
I wasn't born a bodybuilder. I became a bodybuilder, right? And for me, I came from football. I had a very good sense of self because I was a good athlete, right? I was always the MVP on my team, and that's not me bragging. I got the records, I got the trophies, I got the ribbons, and I was always an athlete. So I was always very competitive. And I didn't think I was small. I didn't think I was short. I didn't think there were things that I couldn't do. I'm black in a white society over here in Orange County, right? There was very few of us, but I didn't look at myself as a black person. I looked at myself as an athlete, as a person. I didn't have that chip on my shoulder that I'm black in America.
So you were playing sports because you liked playing sports and you were pretty good at it.
Not because I had to get out of the ghetto, because I was broke.
Or more importantly, because I think a lot of people get involved in bodybuilding, this whole fitness industry, the women, even, and a lot of bodybuilders, because they're trying to change something. They're trying to really create value within themselves, create self-esteem, that kind of stuff. Yes. And so they find the value in it. I'm a champion. I see this. I see Kevin LeBron and Flex Wheeler very much like this because, it helped them to gain a sense of self-esteem.
Somebody.
Exactly. And that's not you.
No, and I think it comes from your stock, right? I mean, I don't come from the ghetto. I didn't want for anything. I was introduced to this industry when I joined a gym by a professional bodybuilder who was from the ghetto, from Compton, John Brown. 6'2", 260 pounds, 2-time universe, 3-time world.
Great bodybuilder.
And my introduction was I got to see what would be possible for me if I did the things he was doing. And of course I couldn't compare myself to him, but I thought, well, God, if I just keep eating a lot of food, I can get big, because that's what he's telling me. You keep training, you're going to get bigger, you're going to get stronger. Well, I'm going to keep training, I'm going to keep getting stronger. You better take your naps. I'm taking my nap. You better eat your food. Are you eating your food? So that indoctrination, that exposure, you need to work on your posing, because that's all they're going to remember. You could train and nobody's watching you train. They're going to remember you pose. That's all they're going to see.
Great advice.
So I'm over here making sure I got the best posing routine. And my first show, I got best poser. My second show, I got best poser. I'm remembered for my posing throughout my career.
Yeah.
That indoctrinated me early. But I'm around alpha males. My dad was a janitor. Nothing was beneath me. I was cleaning toilets, dumping trash cans, working all hours of the night. John Brown was a slave master who took me to the ring and back in terms of he forced me to do what he did in the gym. I couldn't quit. If I quit, he told me to leave. I didn't have time. I couldn't go lay down in the corner, and I couldn't sit there and watch him work. If I quit, I had to leave. It was very if you're not gonna do it, go. I had to leave the frick. And trust, I left the gym many times. I threw up in the gym many times. He called me the next day. You coming? Yeah, I'm coming, because I felt like a failure. right? That guilt of quitting is hard, man. It's like I wrestled in high school, and when I'm getting ready to get pinned, I'm like, oh shit. Then I'm like, everyone around me saw me get pinned. I can't wait till the next match to redeem myself. So here I am in the gym, I'm quitting on John, or I'm throwing up on John, and it's like, I can't wait to get back there to try to show him that I can do it. And I fight my way to a point where now, you remember, I don't know if you remember, but when I think of Rocky, when Rocky was running with Creed, Apollo Creed was trying to get him back, right? And they're running on the beach, and he's blowing away Rocky. And then suddenly you see Rocky turn it on, and he passes Apollo Creed. I mean, that was me, like, going past you. When I got to a point where I could train without John Brown, and I could do the things that John did to me, to other bodybuilders, make them throw up and make them quit. I found my stance. I found my purpose, right? And my ego, it fed my ego that this is something that I can do. So my sense of self was like, I didn't need someone else to show me, because now I know. Now, I was introduced to it. I learned it. Now I can go out and teach it to other people. And here comes Richard Jones, and here comes Melvin Anthony, and here comes Milos Sarcev. I was training right alongside those guys and kind of showing them what John Brown had showed me. And now, you know, it worked, because now John's got a son in the NFL playing for the Green Bay Packers as a wide receiver. He has another one starting for Stanford, and he has another one that was a freshman over at USC starting at wide receiver. So he said, I'm going to have football player sons, and he's put all three of his sons through this thing. Well, it depends on, like, your introduction and who you're around. I came from very good stock and self-awareness.
And it sounds like you had good mentors.
And I never forgot. Look, I didn't trust me. I always knew I was black, right? In Orange County, they'll remind you real quick. I also knew that being successful, it crosses color lines, right? So they looked at me differently when I pulled up in my Ferrari, or if I pulled up in my Porsche, or my Corvette, or my Mercedes. Suddenly, my lifting weights validated that, you know, I'm a professional, right? I didn't move too far from home. I was always within a 30-mile radius. Right. But for me, my status in the community was a reflection of the success I was having. I'm on the grocery store. The cops that went to college and schools around me, they would see me on the magazine covers, and so I wasn't this unicorn, but at the same time I was a pseudo celebrity, because I didn't leave the comforts of where I was born. I was always in Orange County. Right. So I got positive affirmation constantly from, you know, not feeling like a leper being a bodybuilder, but being a celebrity. Like, they celebrated me when I went to my grocery store. And I'm like, hey, you know, I didn't even have to pull the magazine out there. Oh my God, do you see you're on another magazine cover? You're like, I got preferential treatment when I got pulled over. The cops, you know, they work out and stuff. They train in my gyms, and I wouldn't get pulled over for doing something wrong. I get pulled over because I'm Shawn Ray. My plates said S Ray. They asked me, when's my next show? So that has to also help the fabric of me being very confident and me feeling secure with identity. A lot of bodybuilders, they'll move from their home to go train at Gold's Gym. Right. And that's not natural. Jay did it. Mike Matarazzo, Flex Wheeler came down from Fresno. I mean, a lot of people migrate. And now you're in Santa Monica.
I was asked to come down there in the early 90s.
But I didn't. Different people have different experiences. Paul DeMeo's dead, right? He's from Massachusetts or whatever. Some people can't acclimate. You know, even Craig Titus came from Texas. And Santa Monica can kind of chew you up and spit you out, because all you have is the gym. And then next thing you know, you're doing things that you normally wouldn't be doing. You came there to bodybuild, and you realize you got to live, and suddenly you're posing for nude magazines for men, or, you know, you're doing things, you're bouncing at a club, or you're doing nube,
or having intimate relationships with fruit.
Finding out what kind of fruit are out there. A lot of things can go south, right? And I've witnessed it go south. I was home. I'm still home. I'm in Orange County. So I could make the drive and come back. I always had a sense of self.
So because I know you've always loved where the areas that you've lived, you know, Orange County and stuff. And does that ground you?
It grounds me because look, I can go and have breakfast with my friends from elementary school. Okay. I can go to the gym and meet guys that I went to high school and played football with. Tomorrow, Saturday, I'm at the LA Fit Expo. And we're having a big high school reunion that we always have once every 5 years, and it's all years. So when I go, I'm walking into, I'm the class of 84, but there'll be 83, 82, you know, it's all the way back into the 70s, all the way into 2000. And it's this one big homecoming for all of us. And so my sense of self comes from the people I grew up with that knew me when I wasn't a bodybuilder. And so many of the athletes come in and lose their identity. They don't go to their reunions. They don't have friends from high school. They don't have someone that can ground them and talk to them the way that they did when they were in junior high school.
So having said all that, when you think of yourself in your head, who would you say you are today versus when you were?
I'm a combination of a lot of guys I've met. It's interesting that you had Martin Luther King Day the other day, and I was always in history. I'm a history buff.
Oh, good.
And I went back and watched my Lifestyles of the Fit and Famous, my first video in '89. And we could be doing a lot of it's my life story, right? I'm showing it. It kind of looked like the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air back then, but I'm showing you what a life of a bodybuilder was. And something came up where it says who was like my mentor, and I brought up Dr. King. And so when you have people that are bigger than you, that have accomplished more than you, that are more worldly than you as role models, as examples, you absorb that persona. It becomes part of you. John Brown, for example, was an art major at Cal State Fullerton, a former track runner and football player that became 2-time Mr. Universe and Mr. World. That was my introduction into the sport. But through him, I gained the understanding of posing, and I gained the understanding of independence, and all those things that he was indoctrinating me with the identification of being a black body. You're a black bodybuilder. You ain't going to get on the cover of Muscle and Fitness. You better work harder. You ain't going to get in Flex magazine. You ain't going to get in it. They ain't going to use you. You're black. By the time I was done, I had more covers than Arnold on Flex magazine. I wound up on the cover of Muscle and Fitness. I did all these things, but the indoctrination of what was possible, I have to go back to the people that influenced me. And so Nelson Mandela, I did 3 book reports on this guy while I was in college, right?
One of my favorites. 2003,
I wind up in South Africa, and I take the tour from Robben Island over to Robben Island, which is where he was held prison. And mind you, my book report, I'm going off of books and I'm taking notes and all this stuff, and I'm watching videos. Suddenly my hands are on the jail cell.
Wow, so that must be cool.
Suddenly I'm seeing the dimensions of how small that cell is and what he had to look at through the bars and out in the quarry where he was hitting the quartz rock and moving it from one side to the other side. I mean, everything I wrote about was crystallized because now I'm there. So how does that shape me? I mean, it gives me, through bodybuilding, I had the opportunity to do that. Christ the Redeemer in Brazil, Rio de Janeiro, big. I'm standing at the foot of it because I'm the MC of the first ever Arnold Classic in Brazil. Bodybuilding has done so much to transform the way that I actually see the world, and also how I accept the losses of the Olympia. Because as far as if I wasn't in that Olympia, I'm not in South Africa. I'm not at the Christ Redeemer. I'm not at the Louvre in Paris, France. I'm not going to Iraq for the first time this year. I'm going to Sri Lanka in 2 weeks. I mean, these are places that on the globe, you spin and you try to pronounce the names. I'm walking the streets of India. I'm over here in China. I'm in Japan. I'm in Germany. I mean, this is all possible through bodybuilding. So what do I have to be upset that I didn't win the Olympia?
So does that fill you with a sense of gratitude? It sounds like it, like appreciation.
Absolutely. Appreciation. This house is here because of my bodybuilding. I'm raising my kids as a result of the bodybuilding. I mean, the things and the opportunities that bodybuilding has given me. Thank God for the internet, because there's so many people in the last 10 years never picked up a magazine, never saw a magazine, and we're able to go out, take a picture of the picture in the magazine, and put it out there. So listen, the photographers are complaining now because we are posting pictures that they took of us, and we're not saying courtesy of photographer X. And I'm thinking, those photographers own those pictures. I can't even call a photographer and get pictures that are of me.
They should be posting them.
Well, they could on their own, but what they see is me, Flex, Jay. We're posting pictures, Chris Cormier. We're posting these phenomenal photographs, right? And we're making our own little captions. But the one thing we're not doing is talking about the photographer that took it. So this is where we start getting into like the women bodybuilder are arguing because there's the women bikini. Now women bikini complaining that there's women's physique. Photographers want recognition now. The problem is those photographers own those photographs. And for years they regurgitated them in the magazines and they were getting the money, not us. And now we're able to take a picture of a picture and put it out there and reap the rewards. I'm seeing pictures from Frank Zane that I've never seen before.
Oh.
Because Frank has magazines he was in, and he's taking pictures of those and putting them out there. So thank God for the internet, because now the world can see this body of work that the last 10 years, these new people to the internet couldn't see. I mean, Instagram and Facebook weren't around.
So that really sort of shares that era of bodybuilding, or those years of bodybuilding, with the newer generation of people.
We're giving them a history lesson right before their eyes. Like, we're showing them stuff that they'd never seen before. If we had to just sit here and look at big Ramy and Roelly Winkler and Shawn Rhodan, we think that's all there is to bodybuilding. Thank God that Jay Cutler's putting pictures up, and Milo Sarchev is putting pictures up, and even Frank Zane and some of the older school guys, because we can see what's possible with the human body through instantaneous postings.
Well, that kind of gives a new sort of landscape. I mean, social media and the internet has definitely really blown up, I think, really made bodybuilding into such a bigger sport and available to more people. And that sort of has helped a lot of the guys from the earlier eras. Not so much the 70s, but the 80s, the late 80s, 90s, like in your era, in my era, a lot of these guys are getting sort of a revitalization of fan base.
Yeah, well, you know what? A lot of guys are trying to do it for money, and that's not why I do it. I don't do it to make money. I'm doing it to share the history. Right. They can find out everything they want to know about me by going to shawnray.fitness. That's my website, right? A lot of people don't even have websites anymore. But I'm not putting it out there to get likes and follows. Some people are trying to get likes and follows, and I don't give a crap if you follow me or if you like me or not. I just want to show you that it's available and what was. And if it comes down to the photographer, hell, I don't know half the photographers that were taking pictures of me. And I know those photographers were being paid to take my picture. And I don't know any of them that are sending me free photographs. So if I find a picture, I put it out there.
Well, that leads me to one of my last questions here, which is topics, which is what's the future for you? What's going on aside from there's stuff you're doing with Shawn Ray TV, but what's the most exciting stuff for you on the docket coming forward?
I got 2 shows in Hawaii, and if you can't get excited about Hawaii, I don't know what you're going to get excited about. I first went there in 1988 with Dot and Mitsuko Oshima. They were Arnold Schwarzenegger's partners. They're both passed on. And then I went back a few years ago to a show that was run really poorly. And then I was running my shows in Baltimore. And then I had the opportunity to run a show in Hawaii. And I went out there once, twice, 3, 4 times. And I'm like, man, I've never lived there. It's way too expensive. But it is a little slice of heaven. And now I'm able to elevate the sport and give those islanders an opportunity to get the same things that we get on the mainland. I mean, they were over there getting tiki cups and flower leis and, hakus. And here I come with a national trophy and a solid medal. That's one of my trophies. This sucker right here is like the solid gold. I mean, the real stuff, right? And then I'm bringing people from there to the Mr. Olympia weekend. I sent 2 of the athletes that won my show to China. I mean, so I'm really doing some big things over there. And the sponsors that weren't there, I'm bringing them there. So now I got a show in Maui, March the 30th, the national qualifier.
What's that called?
That's the Shawn Ray Maui, Shawn Ray Maui Classic. I partnered with Alan Inchinose, who brought me there to guest pose back in '94.
I like Alan, a good guy.
Yeah, good people, former IFBB pro. And my show in Honolulu is going to be November the 23rd at the Hilton Hawaiian Village. So I'm really excited about that. And I'm expanding over in India. I'm doing some big things over in China. I'm emceeing a lot of shows. I emceed the Amateur Olympia over in Ireland, in Italy, Japan, and China. So that was a big play for me, because the Amateur Olympias are really a great opportunity for athletes, and that whole international flavor for me is really exciting, because it's, the blending of the cultures and the different languages and the different athletes is really a kick for me. So emceeing shows is really fun for me. And again, like I told you, I'm headed over to Sri Lanka for the first time in February, and then I'm going over to Iraq in April. So going to places I've never been excites me, because I'm a world traveler. I'm a historian. Again, there's some things I want to see. We had a war over there in Iraq, right? So I want to see what that looks like. But yeah, I'm a very positive outlook on covering the sport of bodybuilding. The Arnold Classic's coming up for the 31st year, and I've never missed it since 1989. And I'm emceeing that competition, and I'm doing some video stuff. So Shawn Ray TV, ShawnRay.tv, I'm documenting all that stuff. So life is good right now.
Oh, good. Well, I think I like your voice in the sport. I think we need people like you to be able to give that kind of honest, but also very sort of a critique, but at the same time based in real good substance. Sometimes I really do. I think so. And I know in the past you've gotten criticized for some of the comments that you made about different athletes and different.
I don't listen. I'm not afraid of criticism, man. But like,
well, if you were, then
Smith, I got to call it like it is.
Well, exactly. That's I think what is needed. I think that who is it? Jim Currie, I think, once said that if you try to please everybody, you run the risk of blending in.
There you go.
Hey, man, like you don't want to blend in. That's what makes you very special. But also you've also been such a good friend to me, and I appreciate that. And I want to tell you thank you for that. And always been, good to me. But I also, like I said, appreciate your voice in the industry. I want an honest voice because so often we hear in the industry nobody wants to offend anybody.
Yeah, I don't care about that.
Yeah.
I got friends. I don't need more.
Like
Mike Tyson said, change your station if you don't want to hear it.
Yeah. I just saw him also on Joe Rogan. I don't know if you watched him recently. He's got this new thing coming out. I think it's in I want to say it's somewhere near Palm Springs. He's got this Tyson Ranch thing going on. Have you heard this?
No, but I did see him this past summer out in Hawaii. Ironically, Mike Tyson and I came up in the industry together. He was 20. When I won the Nationals in '87, he fought 2 weeks later in the same arena over there at the New Jersey Convention Center.
You know him, I think. You know pretty well.
Yeah, we run into each other several times. So to watch his stand-up, it's kind of like watching he got neutered, right? The testosterone was gone. He just kind of made fun of himself the whole time, which is great because he's such a menacing type of a person. But to actually see him and talk to him in Hawaii and watch his show and see that he's come full circle, because he never believed he'd make it to 40, right? He's in his 50s now. He never thought he'd live to be the age of 40. That's why he spent all that damn money, because he figured he would live this long. But to grow old with guys like that and to know where they came from and to still be here doing the business is pretty cool.
Yeah, he's an amazing character, an interesting guy. What strikes me most about him, and I'd be interested to hear what you say, is he seems to be he can't help it but be honest. He's just an honest dude. Like when people ask him questions to interview him, you can tell that like he's really thinking, like it's really this is what he really feels about it. And sometimes it comes across like he's a little aloof or but I think he's an honest.
He's always been that way, and even in his interviews, if you go back and look at him on YouTube. But I think people have a respect for that. They weren't ready for me when I was doing it, coming up as an athlete. Some of the judges, they tell me they were not ready for the honesty. They were not ready to hear change when I was asking for the judges' scores and asking for the judges to be changed and trying to mandate that everyone gets paid. I mean, I wasn't fighting for Shawn Ray. I was fighting for all of us. But they weren't ready to hear someone stand out and talk back. And I was doing it. And Mike Tyson's always kind of done that because he writes his own ticket. I mean, he's the biggest prize money winner, in the world back when he was doing it. But the thing about it is that if you don't change, you don't have to worry about what you say.
Right.
And so my honesty comes from experience, and it also comes from a good place. And it may be a little crass, it may be a little blunt, but we live in an age of PC. And because I'm 53, I'm not going to change anytime soon. It sounds like a breath. Either it sounds like a breath of fresh air, or it sounds like a very cocky, pompous individual. But you go back and look at all of my videos, you're going to see the same consistency from me now that you saw back then. And I don't say things from a place of trying to win fans or followers. And when you live that way, there's a purity about it that people can gravitate to. And they can go back and look back in time and realize that, hey, he's exactly who he thought he was. You know what I mean?
I try to do the same thing. I do. I try to be very much who I am, who I always am, my attitude and everything. Sometimes, and a lot of people, they cater their personality towards who they're talking to, I think. Or at least they cater their comments.
It's just what I love about the politics, because they'll go back and find a thing.
I know.
10 years ago they were saying one thing, and then 10 years now, no, but here circumstances can change, but I never do.
Yeah, that's politics are horrible with this, but I think we're all, especially now with the age of the internet, you can't hide anything. It's going to be out. If it's out there, someone's going to find it.
Well, what's great, Tad, about my existence is that, I came up at the right time. Look, I knew Joe Weider. I worked for him for 17 freaking years, right? Steve Bleckman, who's Joe Weider number 2.0. I mean, I worked for him for 10 years. Robert Kennedy at Muscle Mag International, I had the opportunity to work for him for 2 years. I shot photographs with Bill Dobbins, who shot the Arnold Schwarzenegger encyclopedia book, right? He documented that. I shot with Bob Gardner and shot with Robert Reif, and I know John Balick, who owned Iron Man magazine, Chris Lund, Artie Zeller. I'm tied to the fabric of the history. I met and talked with Jack LaLanne. These guys don't even know. They may see their names in a piece of paper of the annals of history. These guys they've made the fabric of the sport. Ben Weider, come on, man. I mean, I came up with Ben Weider. So I have a confidence level when it comes to bodybuilding and a historic frame of reference that I know what the hell I'm talking about. So
Right.
I said something on one of the chat forums. I got a PhD in bodybuilding, and people were trying to laugh about it. But I mean, you want to measure what my personal real world experience is based on what you're reading on the internet? Like, you're reading about people that I knew and came up with.
Right.
Like, you want to talk to me about Lee Haney? I stood next to Lee Haney, right? I mean, and I've interviewed literally everyone, which is the other side of this sport that I love, is because I did the part of the athletic side, but I've had an 18-year career interviewing these people. Not only that, I was interviewing when I was actually competing, hosting, commentating. I promote shows. I've brought in guest posers. I've sponsored athletes. I've sponsored shows. So I've kind of tried to do a little bit of everything so I can understand the dynamics of this industry. And I met Jim Mannion when I was 17 years old. You know, Jim's the new Joe Weider, basically.
Yeah.
Owner of the NPC, president of the IFBB Pro League. Robin Chang. I remember Robin Chang when he was working with Flex Wheeler as his manager. Robin's been promoting the Olympia now like 10, 15 years. So I'm not coming from a place of ignorance when we start talking about bodybuilding.
No, that's the difference.
And I'm confident about that.
That's the difference between, like you said, somebody who understands through reading or through seeing versus somebody who actually experienced. Yeah, lived it, experienced it. You have real world experience with it, and I respect that because it is. I've always been said, like, you can words can only guide, but real experience really teaches. Like, so
Sure.
it really informs us. So you could tell somebody not to do something, don't do drugs, but until they go out there, if they're really going to want to do it, they're going to go do it until they learn that how bad it can be for them. They're really not going to learn that like it's not going to penetrate deeply into them. So it has
It's
a
like
very
it's like an eye doctor, ophthalmologist that's just now graduating school, never did a surgery. Or the guy that's done 90,000 surgeries. Which one do you want operating on your eyes? The guy he's got a degree, he graduated, you know, he's passed his thing, he's ready to start, he's going to do his first surgery. Or do you want that guy that's done 90,000 and has a track record? For me, when it comes down to information about bodybuilding, I mean, I'm like, I love being tested, I love being challenged, bring it on. I love to compare wits. Some sharp guys out there, you know, Bob Ciccarello and Dave Lieberman, they're historians of the game like myself. But I love to try to educate those guys coming up behind us because we can't take it with us. Right. So I'm trying to give it all back.
That's good, man. Well, hey, Shawn, I really appreciate you taking the time today. And ShawnRay.tv, that's kind of cool stuff. I've been thinking you should be doing this for a couple of years now, but I'm so glad you're on your way doing it yourself. And
yeah, my first one of the season will be this weekend.
And like you said, you can do the interviews and do the things that you want to do, and
yes.
Which is one. Because I think personally that sometimes an athlete who's been in the trenches, who's in touch with the athletes, has a much better bead on what people want to hear in the industry and what people want to see. So I'm all for it. That was the comments that was given to me in terms of when I became a judge. There was a lot of the athletes said, "Oh, I'm so glad to see you on the panel." When I looked down, and I saw your face. I knew, like, you're the only guy that smiles back at us, and two,
yeah.
and
you've
two,
been there.
You've been on stage. You know what kind of crap we have to go through, and you knew us personally. So I totally, that resonates with me as well. But also looking forward to your shows. So I'm looking forward to trying to make it out to the shows this year. Your shows in Hawaii.
Did you say you lived there for a while or not?
No, but my father was born in Honolulu.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, and of course, I'm native Hawaiian. And
you got 2 shots to come home in March and in November.
It's a good chance this year. So, but
all right, brother.
But don't hang up before we go here. Before I end off here, but I totally appreciate the time. Thank you so much, Shawn. You're awesome, and I'll see you at the Arnold Classic for sure. So,
Shaka, bro.
Thanks.
Handle your high with Tadayoshi.